Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round number 8 of ASR's GT3 World Championship for 2021, and it's proudly powered by Endurance Chat, a WEC or an RWEC production. We are ticking off the 10 rounds in this year's calendar, and it's gone fast. There's now 3 rounds in 3 months, so September, October, and November. Tonight, the 70 minutes of Paul Ricard. In a month's time from now, 90 minutes of Monza. And at the end of November, the sprint round of 2 30-minute races in the Gulf state of Bahrain. But the second of the French doubleheader is about to get underway tonight, the 70-minute format, which is the intermediate distance format, and a circuit that has a bit of a heritage as of late with GT3 racing in real life. And one man who knows precisely all about that is it's not Josh Baggs, who's on the bottom there, because he's unfortunately looks like he might be an absentee tonight. It is indeed Michael the Floodman Zalavari who has a bit of info on that, and we'll throw to him now. Good evening, Flood.
Good evening, Nether. It's great to be back. Good evening, everyone watching along. Round 8 of the GT3 Challenge World Championship tonight. Great to be here at Paul Ricard. And yeah, as you made mention, Nether, it's a track that hosts the annual precursor event to the total 24 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. So it's the 1,000 kilometers of Paul Ricard that gets hosted here. Starts just after, I think, 4 p.m. and runs into darkness. So it's a really, really cool event that the SRO run every year. And then, of course, also hosts a European Le Mans Series round, so multi-class action there. It's a track that really suits these cars and really suits multi-class and sports car racing.
Yeah, it certainly does. Very tricky circuit as well. There are some easy parts. There's the Mistral Straight, which is pretty much the easiest part of the circuit. Tonight's version punctuated, of course, by the Nord Chicane, which is not unusually a GT thing. The straight normally goes all the way through, but it's the only version of the circuit that sort of exists for AMS, which has been put together by WCP. They've actually done a fair bit of work for a number of tracks. We've used some of their work before. We've used, I think, Turkey. We've also used Valencia, and we've also used Abu Dhabi in the past, and they've also put this one together, and I think they've actually put Bahrain together as well, which of course we'll use a bit later on in the year. But tonight, this is the only version of the circuit that actually exists, not usually part of the circuit there. But first part of the circuit, not too bad, a little bit technical. The second part of second sector in the circuit is pretty straightforward, and the third part is extremely challenging. Very, very encouraging to sort of go a little bit faster through some of those parts of the circuit than you would otherwise normally would. A lot of opening and closing radius corners, and then having to get your gearing and your line precisely right. I reckon it's going to catch a few people out tonight.
Oh, absolutely, certainly. I was talking with a few of the guys pre-race in the practice session, and a few of us were literally just jumping on board each other's cars and actually teaching each other where to angle the car, where the apex was, how you sort of find your way around the back half of the circuit, because this is a very complicated back half. It doesn't look like much on paper, but because you've got these sweeping opening and closing corners, it becomes very, very difficult. And with the pressure of a 70-minute race, people are already talking about fuel saving from the outlap and trying to make it stretch it on one stop, which I think is going to be quite a challenge indeed. But add all those complicating factors into it, and there's going to be mental mistakes almost guaranteed.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I think mental mistakes, we've seen them already this year. We've seen them a lot, and that is what the point standings are reflected the way that they are. So we have a look right now at the point standings powered by Endurance Chat. We've got Steve Bolger currently on top, but he did have his lead slashed a little bit last time out with the sprint round at Magny Corp. So the margin got eroded from what was 15 points going into that night. It's now down to 5. So Greg Turrow's quite lopped a little bit of margin off there. Termo's still in the picture as well in third place. And then you got Noah Turrow, who's definitely not out of it. Damon Wood's definitely not out of it. But the further you go down that order, the more you can start to rule some of these drivers out, probably for a good shot at the championship. I think it's probably the top 6 mathematically are still in the frame, although the Damon Woods and Lewis Wedding really do need some results to start going their way. Damon Woods looks like he may be an absentee for tonight too. I know he's got V8 Scops 1000 on tomorrow, and there's a bit of that going on. So I think that's probably where his focus will be. But Lewis Wedding, I believe, is here. He is indeed. So he's still in that frame there. But yeah, as I said, a bit further down the order there. From probably 6th on up is probably where our champion of this year is going to come from. But the guys at the bottom part of that need the guys at the top to give them a little bit of help.
And I even go further than that and say it's going to be one of the top 3, probably only the top 2. The points gap in the middle there is quite substantial, 40 points. That's almost 2 races. So it would take a double DNF for Bolger and Taro for the likes of Termo and Noah Taro to really get in the mix. But that's not saying it is impossible. Remember, what was it, the 2007 Formula One Championship, where Hamilton had an 18-point advantage or something with 2 rounds left? So it's certainly not impossible or insurmountable. It just is a statistical unlikelihood. But the championship at the moment, you can sort of see Bolger, Tara, they're the ones to be, and that's reflected in the current practice times at the moment with those 2 sitting on top. It's interesting to see the sort of mid-pack battle and who's consistently turning up and who's going to be making those big gains. I keep an eye out for maybe Glenn Miles tonight, who's actually cracked the top 10 in practice at different stages tonight. So he might be someone who jumps up a few positions. But Steve Warwick's here, Nathan Higginson's here, Taipan's here, Tim Redmond's here. So there's a few guys there who can jump a few positions just at the very tail end of the 10.
Yeah, you're right. They're sort of just outside that points graphic at the moment, but they can pop in and steal a few points, and the maximum number of points still left on the table across all 4 races going. I mean, there's 3 rounds, there's actually 4 races because the sprint round gets 2 races. There's actually a maximum of 145 points total.
Oh,
so
wow.
45 points for a win tonight. Then you've got the 90-minute race coming up for round 9 at Monza is a 50 points for the win, and then you get 25 points apiece for a win in either of the 2 sprint races that come up in the 10th and final round. So it's not insurmountable. If you do your maths there, you can look at it and go, you know what, as we've said before, Wedding and Woods are definitely still mathematically in the picture, although if Damon Woods doesn't turn up tonight, I think we'd probably be safe to say we'll be ruling him out. There is a bit of a surprise joker in the pack at the moment. Noah Tara actually did spend a little bit of time at the top end of the points standings, the top end of the times in the practice session so far tonight. He's just been relegated down to 3rd in the last few moments as I think everybody starts to really put their qualifying runs together. So he's a bit of a smoky, and we know that he has come very, very close to winning a GT3 race in ASR in the past. It was back at Jerez a couple of years ago. I think it was 2019 at Jerez, and he got about halfway through that race and he was looking the goods, and then it just all came undone for him. But it'd be good to see a new man on the top step of the podium if it can happen, but he's not looking too bad tonight.
Yeah, well, just playing his cards right with the strategy might give him the result that we're looking for, really. The 70-minute race is a really awkward length for these cars. They're kind of built around a real-life 65-minute stint. So we're running at 2 times fuel. So, carve that in half. You're looking at like 32 minutes, which isn't quite enough. So if he's able to whisper some fuel out of somewhere or just keep a cool head while everyone else tries to whisper some fuel, he might pop out on top. Certainly now the gaps are a bit bigger at the top because we had a few drivers do practice qualifying runs. But we will see qualifying very shortly, and Nether, there is an update to qualifying as well.
Yeah, there is a slight update tonight. It's actually been increased to 15 minutes. So normally it's a 10-minute session. It's been increased to 15, and the reason behind that is very simple. It's the longest lap of the year, even longer than Monza. Monza is quite a long circuit by any stretch of the imagination, but the difference between Monza and Paul Ricard is Monza goes fast. It's actually over and done with sort of in about a minute 50 or so. It's actually a plus 2 minute lap for the circuit tonight. And on top of that, you've got to remember there's an out lap to factor in as well. So by the time the out lap takes place, you're already down 2 minutes or well over 2 minutes by the time you've prepared the car and all. Doesn't leave you a lot of time. It only really leaves you an ability to probably do 3-4 laps, and you've pretty much got to stay in it for 3 or 4 laps. If you make a mistake, go back to the pits. You're going to have to, it's basically almost like you could do 2 one-lap dashes, which really makes no sense. So the organisers have given the field an extra 5 minutes so they can at least get somewhat number of representative attempts or attempts at a representative lap time on tonight, which I think is actually probably a fair call.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with a track that a lot of people maybe wouldn't have seen before or done many laps on, it's only really just come back into popular knowledge with F1 returning, was it last year or the year before? So
A couple
it's
of years
still,
ago, yeah. 2019, I think it was made its first return.
yeah, so for someone who's not an absolute sports car nuffier like me, it's not a track that you'd probably have heard of or seen a lot of racing at. So especially with the final sector, how difficult it is, the length of the track, all those little extra bits and pieces, just an extra, just 5 minutes just to make sure that everyone gets a chance and a proper chance at that as well. If it, like, you'd be hard pressed to be disappointed if you messed up 5 laps in a 15-minute session, but if you mess up 2 laps in a 10-minute session, you'd feel pretty aggrieved.
Yeah, I think so too, especially, as I said, with a long lap, long out lap, and then the long laps as well. I mean, you can do the math pretty quickly and sort of work out, well, there's going to be somewhat in the vicinity of about, 4 laps tops if your lap time is north of 2 minutes to actually get around and get the lap done. Just apologising in advance to all the viewers. There is a little bit of a couple of screen stutters going on. It might just be to do with the quality of the broadcast graphics. We might see if we can resolve that in between qualifying and the race session while the warm-up's going on, while we're doing some other things between the two sessions. But for the moment, looks like a number of drivers have taken the track already. There's still 3 or 4 drivers sat up in the pits. Zach Brown in the Audi, Nathan Higginson his BMW, and Steve Warwick has just gone to track. Lewis Wedding's gone back to the pits. So it's about 2 or 3 guys now just sitting up in the pits waiting to see what goes on there. Very good of the organisers here at Paul Ricard to actually put the turn numbers on some billboards at each corner front, because it is a tricky track, let alone to remember all the corner names. At least we'll get the numbering right tonight.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a requirement here, as everyone would have noticed and seen the big blue and red stripes. It is predominantly a test track. So it does have, I think it's 56 different configurations when you go through and change out corner shapes, or cut down sections of the track, or add chicanes, or add differences in corners, etc. It's 56 different layouts. So it does not surprise me in the slightest that there are the markers there to help everyone, not just us as the broadcasters or you as the fans, but even the drivers to figure out where they are on circuit.
Yeah. Good idea. So final corner, turn 15 is 15 corner circuit. There is a DRS ball, but we're not going to be using that tonight because there's no DRS as the bollards go flying in the background. And Tim Redmond will show us the way here on approach to the opening chicane, the Verrières. And this is the Grand Prix layout of the circuit we are using tonight. So the other version available. Turn 2. Run down this sort of curving type of straight, doesn't really have any corner numbers to it, down towards turn 3 to the Virage de l'Artel, into 4.
A bit deep in there.
Very deep.
Quite a bit deep.
Down to Camp, the turn 5, the right-hander here, well away from the apex. Very nice line actually. A bit tempting. Some drivers are actually trying to take the early apex at turn 5 and try and straighten the car out, get on the power a little bit early. I think they're finding out that it's probably not a bad idea to stay away from that inside curb. And now for the run down the first part of the Mistral straight towards the Nord chicane.
Yeah, Tim Redmond, mostly smooth through that section, just a little bit of a deep moment at 5, and now, at 3 rather, and then here's the Nord chicane. Very understeery there, didn't quite get the front tucked in, but you can really power out on the exit here towards the next part of the Mistral straight, the part that goes very much uphill, and then you get towards Scene Corner, an absolute monster when you're using the full Mistral. Here it's a little bit more tepid, just a slight lift off the throttle and then pitch the car in. 114 for Tim so far. Pretty decent, but that's not as quick as we've seen the maximum go. Then here is the difficult section through Bussel. Is that
Debose. So yeah,
Debose,
yeah, through Debose, which is a double apex corner, which is actually called double droit Debose. So it's a double apex corner. And as we said, this is the technical bit where you've got to pick your lines right. There's double apex corners in here, closing radius corners. You've got to hug those apexes, hug those curbs. This is the one where you've really got to hug it the most. Turn 16, you've got to sort of stay as far left as possible. Redmond's done a good job there. It opens up the final corner pont and down to the start-finish line. Tracking towards about a 203, 204 maybe here for Redmond. It's a 4 flat.
And that is a pretty decent lap, but it's certainly not going to be the fastest that we'll see tonight. We've seen cars get into the low 2s. I wouldn't be surprised to see that time actually get pretty quickly eclipsed, especially by Greg Turra, who's just coming up to the line now through Virage Dupont and to the line, very smooth.
He's just behind Turmo here on screen. So Turmo with a not really representative lap time, and then behind them Greg Turra actually goes into P2. Greg Turra behind Turmo.
Steve Bolger.
Yeah, and Steve Bolger is on the march as well. Here's the other half of the Turra brigade. Noah Turra, who we did say spent a little bit of time at the top of the point, not the point standings, the top of the time standings earlier on tonight. This is tracking like it's going to be somewhere in the 4s as well. It's a 4.3, so 4.4, so not as close to the best lap time we saw him raise a little bit earlier on in the night for practice.
Tim Redmond's gone purple to the first sector once again, so he's just coming towards Scene Corner now. We'll get a second sector time very shortly. And this one is a 1:13.7, so he's up on the best times. He slides the car through Scene Corner, and he's 8/10 up on his personal best as well. Now, through the double apex at the bottom of the circuit. I'm going to forget the name so many times tonight, but that's okay. And then here again, very unnaturally wide. It feels like the radius of the corner very sharply shuts down at turn 12. So it's actually really a good idea to get that as late as possible. 13, don't need to lift, and then just angle for the curb at 14. Just go and make that a straight line. And as Nether mentioned, hug the curb and swoop it back onto the main straight. Try to avoid the sausages on the outside because they will absolutely derail your lap. As Tim Redmond comes to the line, and he jumps into the twos. Wow.
Good job. Now the next man is 20 seconds behind Redmond is Steve Bolger. So Bolger is about to come around and finish a lap, but also start another lap. That's a rather interesting shot. Looking back at the DRS zone there. We'll start the DRS zone. And Bolger goes back to the top by nearly a quarter second. So that's a good lap from Bolger. Responds straight away. Rosella into P3. So that's a little bit unexpected for the Porsche with a 3 flat. I mean, he's been sort of the champion of the Porsches in recent times. So got a couple of race wins this year already. Both of them in sprint races. One at Albert Park and one last time out at Magny-Cours. Just, I wouldn't say it's up the road because it's a bit further than just up the road. It's in central France. We're in the southern France. Like, these guys could go to the beaches if they wanted after this.
Oh, mate, don't talk to me about beaches. We've had 2 or 3 nice days of weather in Adelaide, and then tomorrow it's going to be 14 degrees again. So I'm not looking forward to that.
It's about the same over here at the moment, mate, so you're not alone.
Yeah. Just a quick note on those last runs around. Bolger had the purple second and third sector. Rosella's actually gone purple to the first sector this time around, but he lost 3/10 in the middle sector alone, and that's all just at top end. The Porsche does struggle a bit with the top end speed we have discovered through this championship. But Rosella might actually just pull a genie out of the bottle here if he's able to keep it together in the middle sector. He's actually gone quickest in the first sector this lap round.
Yeah, he's 10th quicker than Steve Bolger, who also improved as well. Bolger's gone through 13.3 at the sector split, and Rosella's gone through 13.7. So Rosella's improved. He's lost time to Bolger in the middle sector. Bolger has gone purple in the middle sector as well. And it was only a 10th behind the purple sector set by Rosella in sector 1. So looking very, very good for Steve Bolger, who leads the point standings and hasn't got a win this year so far, but he has got a couple of podiums to his name, and he is the epitome of consistency in the championship. He always finds a way to keep going, always finds a way to be at the top end of the standings and picking up those all-important points. He's around the final corner now, and just behind him, you can just see, just flashed into shot there, Luke Rosella. So Bolger in the 2s already, improves by 3/10. And Luke Rosella behind, improves by nearly a quarter second. Here goes the front row.
So that's we're over halfway through the session now. Just quickly on the Taras as well. Check out their lap times: the 3:652 versus the 3:672. So they're really, really tight in cahoots, really, with their rigs right next to each other. The lap times right next to each other as well.
That's it. Here's Noah Tara coming around the final corner for another shot. He was actually purple in the first sector, Noah Tara, and it wasn't a PB in sector 2. It was a bit of an average sector 2. Is it going to be an improvement? It is. Whoa. It's an improvement of 1 spot.
And Tim Redmond just snuck in ahead of him. 1,000 separating Tim Redmond in second from Noah Tara. Tim Redmond in third from Noah Tara in fourth at the moment.
It was actually quite funny because Redmond and Greg Tara had the same time at one stage during the practice session earlier. Yeah. And of course it comes down to who set it first, and it was unfortunately Greg Tara. So Redmond was third and Greg Tara was second overall in that one. Glenn Miles on screen at the moment. He's the only one of 2 drivers yet to set a lap time, and the other one was Nathan Higginson. He's just flashed across the line for 11th. So just leaves the Wildcat Playboy Racing Nissan of Miles.
So Greg Tara at the moment, he's just crossed the line. He set a 2:03.033. So he's the first driver in the 3s, and he is sitting in 5th place. That's how crazy tight it is at the top at the moment here at Paul Ricard.
Yeah, have a look at the times and you see it there. Rosella, Redmond and Noah Tara, you could throw a blanket over them. There is less than 1/10. Actually about 3/4 of 1/10 of a second separating those guys at the moment. Then there's another 2 pair a bit further back. Turmo and Steve Warwick, only 2/10 between them. Taipan and Lewis Wedding, a 10th between those guys. That's pretty good. And then another 2 pair of Brendan Ross and Nathan Higginson. And then a bit further back is, and you can throw Luke Edmonton into and Brian Walsh. They're pretty close as well. And then they get a bit bad toward the stragglers. So there's a few down the back, and we believe there's still one more to come. We believe that it will be qualifying's being missed by Ben Hall, and he's going to be able to jump in for the race, but he'll start off the back of the grid if that's the case. So Greg Tara still motoring along. We'll now get the final time with a bit of luck on the board from Glenn Miles. And this one's actually not been too bad around here. These guys were looking pretty good. Brian Walsh and Glenn Miles having a good old battle. And Glenn Miles' this time good enough for 14th. That's pretty handy. So in the mix there with the other Luke Edmonton, Brian Walsh. Actually not too far away. He can probably find a little bit of time from there. He's still got 3.5 minutes, so plenty to go on. Back to
Greg Tara.
Yes, here we go. Back to the man in second place overall in the championship.
Green to the second sector, 7/10 up on his PB, 1/10 up on the best time of the session so far as he hugs the inside of turn 16 and into Virage du Pont. Not quite right up to the apex, but very smooth on exit. Decides to go to the inside of the track to just try and get as much power behind him.
Good time.
Second.
Look at that. Not much in it at all. 0.052 was the difference at the end of the day there. That was extremely well done from Tara. Where did he find that time? It must have all come in the final sector. He must have really ramped it up a notch.
It was actually, in comparison to Bolger, I think in the first sector, he was 3 or 4 tenths quicker. So
yeah, he was 31.7 in the first sector alone, but it was green, so that's the difference. It was green sectors. They weren't the best sectors at all across the whole lap, but it must have been a really good final sector overall.
Not quite purple. The BMW is one of the good all-rounders. Doesn't do anything spectacularly well, except maybe straight line speed, but it does a lot of things almost as good as the best. So it's really comes to the fore for Greg Tara there, and he sits very nicely on the front row of the grid as we've got 2 minutes left in this session. In fact, I think everyone who crosses the line now will be on their last flying lap.
Yeah, correct. Everybody who gets across the line now will be on a final flying lap. So we've got Luke Rosella's coming down to turn 14 and 15 now, so he's on screen. And then behind him, about 10 seconds behind him, is Steve Bolger. He's going to get another lap. He's currently in P1 on the pole. And then behind him is Noah Tara and Taipan. And then the next lot of them are on the Mistral Straight. So Greg Tara is being chased by Turmo down the Mistral Straight. So that's where our attention is going to go in a minute or two, just to see what they are up to. Steve Bolger to the line, and no improvement, but he has got the ability to go again. So Greg Tara's on an out lap, so he will get another lap. Termo is on a flying lap, so he'll get one more lap.
Check out Tim Redmond as well. He's green. He's purple to the first sector. It's 31.6. He's the first car that's going to be on his last lap is Tim Redmond.
Yep.
So just through sector 1, he's on the Mistral now.
And he's being chased by Brendan Ross in the Porsche. So over the hump there, a little bit of a brake lock-up, but it doesn't hamper the braking performance in the turn-in. So he got away with one there, did Redmond. Negotiates the chicane very, very nicely. Now running down to Scene. Get a split time in a minute. How does it look relative to the top one? It's not bad. It'll be good enough to put him up another spot at this rate. How does he handle the really technical part of the course? Greg Tara starts a flying lap. Redmond is not going to get one more. So this will be and a few other drivers. I'm just looking to see if they're going to get one more as well. It's going to be very, very close. Lewis Wedding and Steve Warwick might just sneak it. They're going to sneak another lap. So here they are on screen. They're about to sneak it now. So they're lucky. They're not going to get another lap. So Redmond is the first of the ones to finish that lap, and he's not going to improve it because he's just looped it.
Oh no! It's so unfortunate for Redmond. Straight to the garage for him. It's still fourth place at this stage. So
Brendan Ross has missed out as well there. That's a bit of shame for Rossi. He's gone well deep at the final corner as well. So he's voicing his displeasure there.
Steve Bolger purple to the first sector, 31.5, and then a 41.7. So a pretty good middle sector as well. So he's in the last sector of the lap. Luke Rosella will be the next to cross the line.
Got him here. So Rosella to the line and improves, but does not improve himself to the front row. Current pole sitter. Can he put an exclamation point on this one? Yes, he can. Two flat, and the fastest lap of the weekend so far for Steve Bolger. Very, very impressive indeed.
Tara next.
Yep, Noah Tara to the line. No improvement for Noah. Greg is the one we're interested in. He is down by a tenth and a little bit at Scene at the second split. And he's the next the big guns we're looking for. There are a couple of drivers still out there having a go. I think Lewis Wedding's aborted. He has, so it's just Steve Warwick and Zach Brown remaining behind Redmond, but they're at least 30 seconds behind.
Onto the backs. Oh, wait, where's Greg Tara?
He's coming through the last couple of corners there. He's about to come through the final corner, and we'll get a read on the time.
Had a little bit more room on the exit there to use for that run onto the straight. And again, coming across the track, but he's going to come across the line and set a 2:02.4.
So it doesn't get the pole time, but doesn't improve either. So good final run, though. Good consistent couple of last laps from Greg Tara. Puts him up into second place on the front row.
And Steve Warwick gives it away.
Yeah, and so too, I think Zach Brown might be giving it away as well. No, he's not. He's actually going to go finish a lap here. So he's actually picked up the Murrell Audi for tonight. And find some time. Good improvement. Actually, very good improvement.
Decent half a second there for Zach Brown. But in the end, it was Steve Bolger who was the cream of the crop, really. A 2:02 flat. It's an incredible lap. It was the first one into the 2:02 flats, almost into the 2:01s for Steve Bolger. So he'll start from the front row alongside his championship rival, Greg Tara, for tonight's 70-minute race. Great job from Luke Rosella to finish up in third. Tim Redmond had a chance to jump him on the last lap, but had a bit of a spin. Noah Tara on the third row of the grid, fifth place by 1,000th of a second to Tim Redmond. So very, very tight margins there. Steve Warwick, Termo, Taipan, Lewis Wedding, Brendan Ross is the rest of the top 10. Nathan Higginson, Luke Emerton, Zach Brown, Glenn Miles, Brian Walsh, and PJ rounds out the qualifiers. And Ben Hall has confirmed for us in our YouTube live chat that he will be joining us for the race. So we'll have 17 cars, decent sized field for 70 minutes coming your way later on this evening.
Absolutely. So we'll have a very, very brief pause. We'll see if we can get some of those game starter issues resolved and see if we can get some little bit better pictures for the 70 minutes that lay ahead. But while we do that, let's have a little bit of a look here at the calendar from this year, and let's see where we've been and what we've done. We like to do this all the time to remind everybody how the season has unfolded so far. So we said Luke Rosella got a couple of wins this season already. He got both of them in Albert Park at the very early on in the year, back in March and April now. It's been some time since they've been to Albert Park. Greg Tarup was your victor in Estoril at Portugal. First time he'd ever been to Portugal, and did the business there and got it over and done with. Laguna Seca honours were split, with Greg Tara getting his second win in race 2 and Termo getting the chocolates in race 1. So the only circuit that was on continental United States this year. We went south of the Continental Divide and down to Interlagos to see Damon Woods win by over a minute on debut in GT3. So he did a fine job over there. And then we went back to Europe, where we have spent most of the season. The Nürburgring, Damon Woods 2 from 2. At one of the very big homes of GT3 and endurance racing in continental Europe. He didn't make it 3 from 3 when we went to Imola. That went to Greg Tara, getting his third win of the year. The very famous last lap pass now down at Tosa, where he used the lap traffic as a pick beautifully.
That was a cracker.
It was. Damon Woods getting race 1 at the Magny-Cours circuit, and Luke Rosella getting race 2. And then we go from the middle of France to the south of France to Paul Ricard. As we said, they can almost touch the beaches from here. It's the closest that they're going to get to the ocean all year. Here's the circuit flood, 5.8 kilometres long, nearly 5.9, 15 turns, and no wonder it is going to be about 35 to 39 laps tonight, because, as we said, this is not only the longest lap time on the calendar, it's going to be one of the more challenging races tonight. Only Monza gets close to it in terms of length, but of course the laps at Monza go very, very quickly.
Yeah, this is a very well-built circuit for testing every single aspect of a GT3 machine. You have the very slow top end of the circuit through camp, turns 5 and 6, and then the long Mistral straight. Not the completely unblemished Mistral straight, unfortunately. That really turns that corner at the bottom end of the circuit, scene corner 10 and 8. In today's layout, or I think it's actually more than that. Anyway, the bottom of the top end of the track turns that into a monster when you've got the full Mistral straight. But as I made mention, it's a little bit more tepid. But this last sector is an absolute beast and a half. Just differing elevations, very hard to sort of get a visual reference of where you are. You've got to use the curbs. You've got to use the little tags on the inside of the track to just kind of discover your way through that section. It's a very difficult place to get your head around, and a great racetrack for GT3 and sports car machinery. I mean, the European Le Mans Series has come here for the past 7 or 8 years and has been consistently good. The GT World Challenge Europe, the 1,000 kilometers of Paul Ricard, is one of the best races on the GT calendar. You know, Shane Van Gisbergen's had success here. Matty Campbell's had success here. Bentley boys have had success here. Chaz Mostert's first race in Europe was here. I think he finished 11th in 2018 at this circuit, driving his BMW. So it's a place storied with history, and recently as well for GT machinery. If you've not seen the 2016 or 2018 or even 2019 events at this circuit for GT3s, you're doing yourself a disservice. I know they're 6 hours, but they're very much worth a watch, because it's been some unbelievable racing around this track.
There has, and let's not forget Formula One's return here a couple of years ago as well.
Yeah,
so it is. It's semantics. It's one of those things. I guess that's what's put it back on the map as well. Is Formula One coming back to the calendar? It's popped up in all the Codemasters F1 games for the last couple of years. So everybody looks at it and goes, you know what? We just have a bit more of an understanding now about what it was. Personally, I missed the last circuit we went to for Formula One, which was Magny-Cours. That one actually probably delivered a fair bit of racing, but the downside is it's just in the middle of plumb nowhere.
Yeah,
miles away from anything.
See, I'm actually unfortunately young enough to have never remembered a race at Magny-Cours. I missed out last time out, of course, because I was managing the RWEC subreddit for Le Mans. But I've never actually seen a race at Magny-Cours. So for me, this is like the French F1 track now. And like, it gets a lot of shtick because of the whole like painted lanes and car park and blah, 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 blah. It's a test track predominantly, but they built it in for racing as well. And it does a really good job. The subtle elevation changes, the difference in corner cambers and profiles, it really brings a lot of life to this track.
It does, and if you're playing along at home and you want to actually go and have a look at some of the different layouts that this circuit offers, I mean, you can look them up on the web. We use racingcircuits.info as our source of information. So a big thanks to those guys for putting a lot of effort into the stuff that they do. The circuit layout details are a bit weird, how different tracks do different things. The layout we're using is titled Circuit 1C-V2. I don't know how they got that worked out, but that's just the type of layout for the circuit. That's just the one that says, okay, this chicane goes this way, this corner goes that way. There's a whole bunch of different variations as to, you know, the ones that are public knowledge, I guess, for what they've been used for in, you know, real life racing, whether it's local racing in France, whether it's GT racing, whatever the case may be. That's the way that they sort of brand it. So they're the only versions that are actually available on racingcircuits.info to really take a good, strong look at.
Yeah, so there is actually a bit of a story behind the different configurations. So if you go onto the Circuit Paul Ricard website, which you can get to from Wikipedia just by clicking the official links, there is actually a description of how each change in layout changes the name. And so it kind of helps make sense. And there should also be, I'm trying to find it, and I might link it somewhere for everyone's enjoyment. There is a booklet which shows you I think it's 56 different race track configurations that you are able to use if you want to hire the circuit for your own private testing or track day or whatever.
I just found it. I actually just found it. I'm actually reading that site now. I've actually had to convert it to English. Big thanks to Google Chrome for doing that for us. It says here, the circuit offers 247 different track solutions. They don't call it layouts, they call it solutions, from 828 metres to 5,858 metres, which is just short of the circuit distance we're going tonight, adapted to each person's objectives in terms of vehicle development and training for competitions. So yeah, you can see there. There's 21 total corners on the circuit that have been titled for whatever the different layouts are. So it's even talk about things being able to do like the 5.8k circuit we're racing on tonight is the longest track hosting the majority of competitions. 3.8Ks for motorcycle courses. The 1.8K school track is mainly for driving courses. They've got remote controlled sprinkler systems to activate stuff for, you know, skid pan testing and those sorts of things. It's amazing. I mean, I know Phillip Island does a fair bit of this as well. I mean, they do their skid pan essentially in the back of the pit paddock here in Melbourne, but nothing to compared to what these guys do over in Europe.
Yeah, it is a bit wild. It is like a one-stop motorsport shop, basically. It's like what the Bend's trying to be, and so we might see maybe not 247 different applications or 247 different tracks, but certainly something like that for the Bend. And hey, if you're in Europe, this is why it's such a popular test track, because you can tailor your testing experience to exactly what you need. Like, they use this for the WEC and European Le Mans Series official tests, the prologue test. They use this for the GT World Challenge official test. They even use this sometimes for the pre-Spa-Francorchamps test to, you know, check that everyone like can drive a car, because of course Spa-Francorchamps 24 hours, you end up with over 60 entrants, so that's what, 200 drivers. So they do their driver training there as well. It is really they do private testing. I know that the Porsche WEC team, the Manthey Racing, their GT cars, they did their private testing when they got the new 911 RSR. They did that here, and very famously or infamously really wrote off a car. I don't know how you write off a car at Paul Ricard on a test. But somehow it happened, and that driver unfortunately has never sat in a Porsche again.
Had too much of a dip, I think.
Yeah, well, if you're in a brand new car and you're doing a test and you're having too much of a dip, then no wonder he hasn't sat in a Porsche since. But it is just a motorsport facility, really, and it does a very good job of it.
It absolutely does. So there's plenty of these places around the world, and this is sort of the modern sort of thing we see with these types of circuits nowadays, with the types of tarmac runoff in certain places. I mean, you've only got to look at places like Abu Dhabi to work out that even they've gone and tarmacked a fair bit of their runoffs, as well as some of it being grass and some of it being, you know, sand and stuff. That is the way that they've been going now, giving the driver plenty of time to recover. It is a fairly different surface as well, so I'm wondering, and there's also a fair bit of, I know there's a fair bit of work going on with Abu Dhabi at the moment in real life, but I'm not sure what differences they're going to make to a lot of the runoffs. But what are some of the other circuits around the place that have got these sorts of tarmac runoffs? Because there's not very many of them.
Well, they're starting to become a bit more sort of a vogue, I think, is the way to term it. Unfortunately, it's less new tracks being built with car parks of runoff and more runoff being applied to older tracks. Like I know that Parabolica at Monza has quite a bit of tarmac runoff on the exit now, which is kind of annoying. You know, it kind of takes a little bit of the fear away from that corner at Le Mans. The Porsche Curves has a new tarmac runoff area, which again takes away a little bit of the fear from it. So I'm not too sure in any brand new tracks that are being built with this sort of archetype in mind. It is just more sort of bringing this sort of format to other circuits. And I'm not sure that I like that. I like Paul Ricard in the way that they've done it, because the whole idea is that it's predominantly a test track and you can facilitate races there. That's why you have the sausage curves. That's why you have all the sort of tags, and normally at Steen Corner, which I think we've just seen Zach Brown go through a few minutes or a few seconds ago. They have like a bollard system. So like bollards basically built underneath the surface that will that you have to stay on the near side of, otherwise you get pinged for track limits. I like that because it's been built into this circuit from the beginning, or since the remodeling. You know, kind of making those changes to already established corners around other tracks, I like a little less. But oh well, it's one of those more modern things, I think. Something we should talk about though, Nether, before we this warm-up session ends, we get into the race, is the pit entry and the pit exit. Quite a complicated pit entry and exit on this track. You've got to really hug the inside of Circuit du Pont, the final corner, to get into the pits. And then you've got to be very, very careful coming out of the pits or passing the pit exit, because you basically get chucked straight onto the racing line at the entry of turn one.
Yeah, you certainly do. And that's what would have been getting it reiterated in the driver's briefing a few moments ago about making that pit entry very, very obvious of the final corner, and the predictability of coming out of the pit lane and staying as far right as you can. So as you come over the hill, you can actually see it there on the holding screen. We've actually just reset the warm-up session for a few more minutes. The hump in the main straight over there, it's actually blind. So as you're coming over the hill, you don't know that there's any traffic exiting the pit lane until you see it. Whereas with a traditional sort of flat straight, you'd be able to see quite comfortably that there's someone coming out. The pit lane here, you can see, it's very long. It starts very early. It goes off the final corner, almost less than 100 metres off the final corner. You basically come around there and you're pretty much peeling off to the right as quickly as you can. The pit lane's a bit strange as well, because we might actually see if we can take a bit of an aerial shot here and from the back of the pit garage and actually show it to you. Actually, we have got some pictures. We're going back to a practice session now, so we'll be able to show you. If we go back to practice, there goes Glenn Miles. Let's cut to our camera at the back of the pits. There you go. So you can actually see there's the entry at the bottom. Peels off to the right. It's actually a very wide entry, and there's a lot of green space there in between the pits and the actual main straight fence. So it's a bit of a unusual type of pits, I guess you can call it. It's a long pit, but the entry you can see there, it's most sort of unusual.
Yeah, it is pretty peculiar. I think there's a regulation for grade 1 circuits that the pit lane must be flat. So that's why Silverstone, for example, it seems to go underground the further along it goes. So I think this is the solution for Paul Ricard. It also, by doing that, means that the pit entry is slower. So you get down to like a safe speed a lot quicker. And it facilitates more pit spaces pit garages, because you've got that. I think it's an extra little bit of track space there. So again, a nice little crafty solution to fix that sort of problem for Paul Ricard. And I think they do a very good job of it. On the note of the hump in the main straight, though, there is something. It is also has its own infamous moment from a European Le Mans Series race in, I think, 2013 or 2012. You may have seen this, but and not realized it. gearing up for a race start, multi-class race start, the safety car had not peeled into the pits and instead had continued down the circuit, gotten over the hump, and then the cars had been released with the green flag behind it. And it was an absolute calamity because, of course, they've just come over the hump and then all of a sudden, bang, 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 cars almost effectively stopped on the main straight. So I'm not sure what year that was. I think it's 2013. But yeah, it's quite an infamous little hump on the main straight, and it also makes the start, a standing start here, quite difficult. Maybe not so much a rolling start, but certainly a standing start.
Yeah, it makes a standing start sort of going uphill, I think, as well, because that's where the start like gantries are. They're sort of just over the crest of the hump. They're hanging over the circuit, so you can just sort of make them out. Coming back to your topic just a few moments ago about the flat pit entry, and see here is Glenn Miles and Ben Hall to sort of come in to execute that particular manoeuvring. So they're going to their bays there. Some of them are going to have bays up the top end here. Some of them are going to have bays a little bit further down. The flat pit entry here, as you said, is going to facilitate Formula One because they need everything to be flat. But then once they get halfway down, there is a notable decline in the track surface as they head down the pit lane. So that's why there's, of course, no pit garages in Formula One that are that second part of the circuit. You can see that when we're looking on our still shot before, the safety car is pretty much parked there with its handbrake on at the exit of pit lane, and it's on quite a substantial slope heading down there. So you wouldn't want to be down that end and sort of be off the brakes if your pit garage is down there, because your car's going to roll forward and out of the box. There's a bit of fun stuff going on down there at Scene Corner, with Higo looking for a nice quiet line, and Rosella clambering all over the rear of the BMW.
Scene Corner isn't really a passing spot, guys. Come on.
No, it's not. It's a very, very fast corner.
And
in any machinery you're in.
Yeah, exactly. In any machinery. And in fact, a few years ago, there was an incident in an ELMS race. I think it was actually last year, off the top of my head, between a GTE Ferrari in a European Le Mans Series race and the number one Ricard Mille LMP2 car, the all-girl crew, all-female squad. Which actually resulted in Catherine Legg hitting the wall at something like 280 kilometers per hour. And
speaking of hitting walls, Luke Rosell has just hit a wall on the entrance to pit lane. So we might have a look at that on our endurance chat replay and see what he did there. Did he get helped, or did he do this all on his own? I think he's done. Yeah, he's done this all on his own, I think. Or has
he's hit the inside wall?
Oh, I was about to say. I thought he would have done it all by himself. He's practicing a pit in, and no, he got you right. He got the inside wall. There you go.
Yeah.
We don't miss anything here at ASR, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that will not be Luke Rosella's finest moment.
Oh, Nether's on the spot, isn't he? Yeah, so good thing to practice the pit entry and pit exit, though, because they are going to be complicating factors, especially if you're late in the race and needing to make a splash and dash. Having to contend with that is going to be a nightmare.
Talking about walls, and yes, something happens there. Speaking of walls, we've been joined by Josh Bagsy Bags. Good evening, Bagsy.
Good evening. I'm not sure how I like being compared to a wall, but I did have the memory of one by forgetting that this was entirely on tonight.
There you go. So that's
that was apologies to everyone who likes hearing me early on, but I am here now.
Well, there you go. So he's been compared to a wall, and you just summed that one up beautifully, I think. But no, you like sitting on the wall watching all sorts of motorsport like myself. You like sitting at the circuits like I do. So you're out here, and it's good to see you've reminded yourself that it's on, because I didn't think you'd miss this one. Going to be a very, very tricky race, and we'll get you to roll through the grid in just a few moments. Missed out on a cracker qualifying session, though.
I would say of all the tracks to miss, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of this track. It's sort of uninspiring.
Ooh, can tell you've not watched GT3 racing here.
I have only watched the 2 Formula One races we've had here. Neither of them were particularly enticing, but I did hear, Fleddy, you saying about when I entered some of the more interesting moments that have happened here in GT3 racing and the like.
It's good to have you here with us, Bagsy.
Absolutely.
I'm glad.
Should I disparage Porsches at the same time as well?
Here we go. Complete the picture.
Porsche won the last GT3 World Challenge race here, so disparage them all you like. You're still wrong.
There's a big camp. I know.
Qualifying. I don't know who's where. So it's going to be very fresh and just diving into the race and seeing what's happening. I have no clue going in. It's actually nice. It's like going to a movie without seeing the trailer.
Actually, speaking of going to movies without seeing the trailers, I mean, the one that I've been looking forward to is trying to see the most recent James Bond film, but they keep pushing it back all the time. So I actually saw the trailer for the first time a week ago, and I'm like, yes, now I actually do want to see that. But it's a case of it's not quite coming up neck of the woods. And then the Americans are going to be seeing it, like this next month or something. So I'm very, very upset. But anyway. We'll let bygones be bygones. Maybe someone can pull a 007 moment out of a hat tonight and do something that that you get the punchline, I guess, a little bit later on. You go, he's going to do something great. He's going to get the girl at the end of it. But I'm hoping that it's going to be someone that we actually aren't expecting. That is the one that walks away with the girl at the end of the night.
I was thinking more quadruple sextuple barrel roll from that one scene in Quantum of Solace, where they accidentally just put way too much effort into the car to flip it. And
you mean Casino Royale?
Yeah, yes, that one.
That's the one where he was where they did the big test with when she was lying down on the ground, and the big flip over moment. No, I know the one you mean precisely.
Hopefully, we don't see that tonight.
No, I hope so. Not either. All cars are on track. Everybody is set to go, or did we miss someone at the start? I think no. Everyone's on track. Bagsy will roll through the grid.
Right, we have Steve Bolger, who's taken pole position in what was presumably a very fast lap because he's on pole position. Second place alongside him is Greg Turra, so it is going to be the battle of the two at the top of the championship lead going into corner one. He's hoping they can do a better job than Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
Oh!
Third place is Luke Rosella in his Porsche, followed by Tim Redmond. Noah Turra, the second of the Turras, starts from 5th place. Good qualifying for the man, 4th place in the championship. Steve Warwick is in 6th place with the GTR of Turmo qualifying quite nicely in 7th. Taipan putting the Lamborghini up well into the top 10 in 8th place. And Lewis Wedding, not the best qualifying in his Icebreak Porsche. He's starting at the back of the top 10 alongside Brendan Ross in 10th place. They're very slow through the corner there. Nathan Higginson in the BMW that just once again looks massive when it's next to the Porsche of Brendan Ross. It's just the memes. I know they're memes, but they're quite accurate.
It's the big bimmer. It's the big bimmer.
Yeah, and with the Audi of Luke Emmerton here in 12th following, it just looks ginormous. Zach Brown in 13th, not the one who is the McLaren team principal, but one who is presumably worse at racing. Yeah, sorry, Zach. And then Glenn Miles in 14th. Brian Walsh starts from 15th, PJ in 16th, and Ben Hall in 17th. And I noticed that we do not have a Damon Woods here tonight.
No, we don't. We believe that Damon Woods is having some time off too. He's got the V8 Scops Bathurst 1000 this weekend, so he's decided to put his eggs in that basket. But that being said, Luke Rosella's in that as well, so that's a bit of
I believe in that case, though, that means that we can have him drop out of championship contention despite his charge this race, assuming Bolger and Turra don't have terrible races.
Yeah, correct. He's too far back in the point standings after tonight is over to challenge for the championship, with only 145 points maximum for any one driver still being on the table before the green flag drops tonight. So you're right, he will fall out of contention. He was alongside Lewis Wedding as well, so as long as Lewis finishes the race tonight, he'll jump back ahead of Damon Woods in the point standings overall. Geez, Bagsy's on fire tonight already, isn't he, Flood? He's only been here 10 minutes and he's already on fire.
He's on the button. It was like he knew exactly what the talking points were going to be off in the ether before he even realized that tonight was on.
Great minds, not a long time.
Great minds think alike. I think that's the. Let's just leave it at that. I think. There's Steve Warwick's view out the front of his Blackshaws Bentley as he ran the last couple of corners, heading towards the start-finish line. Steve Bolger leading them around. Now the drivers will be instructed that the acceleration zone is not until they reach the Endurance Chat gantry. There it is up there. The clock hanging underneath, so the pace car peels off, goes to pit lane. And everybody's around to the front straight. So they're going to maintain speed until they get to the gantry here, which is actually, it's not the start lights gantry, that's a little bit further down, but they're allowed to go anytime after here. So Bolger's holding him and waiting, and now he goes. So timed that beautifully, jumped away really, really nicely, gets a car length or two on Greg Turra as Luke Rosella looks to stick his nose down the inside at turn one. Tara's got to leave him a little bit of space, which he does, and they get through there unscathed. Rosella loops around the outside and makes another 2. No, he doesn't! He's off the circuit. Where's he gone?
He's gone well wide. He's going to drop down to 6th place as they fall through towards turn 3 and 4. Team Redmond right behind Greg Tara, and all over the back of that BMW as they side their way through the island of tarmac in between all the blue.
There he is on the inside there. So actually what happened to him, let's have a look at this one on the replay. We'll drag it up now. We'll get a really good idea of what happened here as he clipped those curbs. So there he is clipping the curbs, and he's lucky to catch that. Plenty of tarmac runoff and very lucky to catch that one.
He's currently getting pushed down the Mistral straight, but it's Greg Tara who's shaping to make a move at the front. Slots back into line as they hit the Nord chicane. So it is Bolger from Tara, from Redmond. Tara, Rosella's back into 5th. Turmo and Taipan battling over 7th. Actually, Turmo just hits the sleeping policeman there, the sausage curves, and he's dropped away, and he's going to even be vulnerable to Lewis Wedding as they come up towards Scene Corner for the first time.
Rosella, very, very lucky this race is a follow-up. It's absolutely flying. They all are running wide. He's very lucky that there is no gravel at this circuit, because he would be way at the back now, and as it is, he's really not lost out much in the scheme of this race. It's 70 minutes, and that's a lot less penalty than really he probably should have had for having. Oh, Greg Tara's gone wide.
He has.
Redmond is through. He may have got a little bit of a tag from Redmond there, and it seems like Redmond might be just giving the position back gracefully.
Oh, he's got to be carefully though.
They're going for it.
He'll be on
Greg
the
Tara
outside.
has a championship to think about here though. He's got Bolger ahead of him, and he's just going to take Noah Tara taking advantage. He's going for 2 positions in 1 corner. Does not get the drive though.
No, he doesn't. And that's actually given Steve Bolger a nice little margin as well, with these guys fighting over 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. And Redmond was caught on the outside there at the final corner, and Noah Tara tried to put his nose into the play as well and didn't quite take advantage of that. He is still boxing on a little bit with Luke Rosella at the back of this little train, and he actually comes out and holds on.
That was a very good move from Noah Tara.
Yeah, and he was at the top of the timesheets a little bit earlier in the night as well for a little bit, so he's got some pace. Oh, he ran into the back of Redmond at 4.
He's got a lot more drive off the corner than Redmond does at the moment. I think that was what caused that. Redmond's just not feeling confident with the car at the moment under acceleration, whereas that BMW is absolutely planted.
Look at what Tara's done. Greg Tara's actually made up quite a lot of ground on Steve Bolger through the first part of the circuit as well. Is this the fuel mileage issue playing into coming into play again early? Flood, you did talk about this with some of the drivers you were talking about earlier as Tara surges to the lead at the Nord chicane.
Yeah, we know that the front engine cars are a bit weaker on their fuel mileage, so this might be the Taras who, because Noel also had a pretty significant look at the background there. This might be them committing to stop early. On the other hand, we know that Bolger has a whisper of a right foot and can make that fuel tank last, so he might be looking towards a one-stop strategy. But look at the gap already between Bolger and Tara. It's already almost a second as they come down through the double apex right-hander. So Bolger's committing hard to the one-stopper very, very early on in the race. Either that, or he's just having an absolute mare of a time this lap.
He's done this before, though, Bagsy. Flood's right. He's like the fuel whisperer. He's like what's the name of the movie? The horse whisperer. Robert Redford. This guy's the fuel whisperer. He's been able to do it very, very confusingly for us before. I think at Monza, we've seen this time and time again over the years, and he knows how to make this work. And already, Greg Tara does not want to give that Ferrari the tow.
Yeah, no, you don't want to help him when he already just sips the fuel like a proper gentleman. He's not gulping it down like a heathen. He's just taking those nice little sips out of the car. He's getting off the throttle early. He's really just babying this car around the course and still keeping Redmond behind him, which is, he probably wants to try and keep Tara behind for a bit longer and force him to use that fuel. And I'm on board with him at the moment. I can hear him short shifting and getting off throttle early. But he's got to be careful because he might have Redmond and Tara, Noah Tara that is, past him fairly quickly, or at least Noah Tara if he can get Redmond. And the Taras can work together and try and force him into something different potentially if he's not careful, especially with the gap that Tara's making.
Yeah, already 1.6 seconds since the pass was made. Right here, 1 lap ago for Greg Turra, as that's Luke Rosella trying to sneak out and make a move on Noah this lap around. These guys are all in a battle pack here, and that's actually allowing Turmo just the slightest sniff to try and get that onto the tail here. I think the Torres here have a bit of luxury of having 2 guys in this pack. They've got the hair in Greg, it looks like, who's kind of trying to stretch them out and give everyone something to chase. And then Noah, if he wants, he can actually even try and sit and make the one-stop work for him as well. You just sort of sit in here, and we know that Bolger was the fastest man in practice. We know that he was the fastest man in qualifying as well. So if you're going to sit in the train, might as well sit behind Bolger and have him do all the pushing into the air for you and try and save as much fuel as you can.
A little bit of a coming together at Debose as well. Sorry, guys. Oh, there's a couple of contact situations going on down at Debose. So there was a little one there just before Steve Warwick getting into Taipan, very briefly redressed the spot, and then the gap opened up. Ben Hall tried to go through the open door, and there wasn't any room there. So another couple of battle packs just starting to edge close together, and you're right about Turmo starting to edge onto the back of that little train. So it's kicking off early here.
And look at the fastest lap time. It's a 2:03.3, and you compare that to what we were seeing in qualifying, where we saw 2:02 flat as the fastest lap time. They're really, it's full tanks, of course. There's probably a little bit of a softer setup to cope with that, but it's not the outright pace that we saw in practice and qualifying. This is proper endurance stuff here as we are approaching already 1 hour on the clock. Or 1 hour to go, rather.
I just said about Bolger will save fuel, and then he just went and pumped in the absolutely balls to the wall lap there to close that gap to Bolger. So he doesn't want to let that gap balloon out. He knows he needs to keep it.
Oh, safety car, safety car, guys.
Yep, safety car, and there was a contact situation happening in the background, and it was Steve Warwick and Ben Warwick down at turn 4. So that's an early safety car. That actually that nullifies this race. The pits are closed now, so of course they can't stop. But this makes it almost an easy one-stop from here, considering we're going to get a couple of laps behind the ASR Camaro safety car. Let's have a look at this one on the replay. We actually have got it here. Oh, they pushed and shoved each other into turn 3, and then Warwick sort of fought the argument back and forth. So that's going to be an interesting one, and they got themselves out the way. Steve Warwick's got himself going again, which is good. So a little bit of a no harm, no foul there one. They have lost a couple of spots, but they have triggered the safety car for this one.
Oh, sometimes you just have to know when to give it away, and I think that goes for both of them there. I think Ben could have just given a little bit more space at 3. The Warwick Bentley was quite a ways up on side, but once that first contact's been made, you just got to give it away. I think there's no point just driving right into the back of the man you're chasing, but that's my opinion. The stewards will have a look at it, of course, and they'll apply an appropriate sanction.
Yep, I agree. The stewards will probably take a little bit of a look at that one. I wouldn't be surprised to see that one go down as a bit of a racing incident, or maybe a small slap on the wrist for the two of them, just to say don't do that again. They're both probably equally to blame for that one. Hall probably having a bit of a go at 3 when something wasn't there, and then Warwick sort of caught in a bit of a bad situation, but the stewards will definitely take a look at that one. Safety car comes out fairly early here, though.
Tara is a fair way ahead of Bolger at the moment. Bolger's slowed down a lot more than he probably needs to. I guess he wants to conserve more fuel than try and make the second stint a lot shorter. Is this gonna? Because I know it was gonna be touch and go for a one stop for the. I thought it was gonna be more than touch and go. I thought it was sort of a decision to make a 2-stopper. Or really aggressively fuel save for a one-stopper. Is this safety car going to be enough to give them a one-stopper?
That's the 45-point question, isn't it? Is it going to be enough?
Question, yeah. So the whole point was that the front-engine cars do use a fair bit of fuel, and we're probably going to be marginal on the one-stop in a 70-minute race. Of course, the McLaren has a lot better overall, but it definitely needs chews through a fair bit of fuel. The rear-engine Porsches are used fairly good on the fuel, but of course they're down on a little bit of straight line speed, so that just gives you an idea of how all the different physics play out with these cars and the different setups. So I think this is going to go very, very close to making this almost a certain one-stopper. I'm almost positive we're not going to see anybody in the front dozen cars in this lap. If you're at the back, why not? Come in, take a stop. So, Steve Warwick, who's down the order now, has probably got a little bit of damage. Maybe Ben Hall as well. I'd probably say Glenn Miles and Brian Walsh and probably PJ in the Audi. There's no harm in those guys coming in, having a pit stop, going off sequence to everybody else, not having to worry about the pit lane traffic. It also takes them out of play for when some of the bigger players come in and they don't have to worry about that sort of traffic on pit lane.
I think Lewis Wedding down 10th is probably a prime candidate for just hitting up a pit stop now. You'll get back up there pretty quickly, and yeah, you've saved yourself a lot of time on your final pit stop.
And they've got plenty of tyres in reserve as well, so it's not like they're short on tyres and they have to try and make 2 tyre stints, or 2 different stints with 2 tyre sets. They can pick a new set every time.
You might be able to make it on one set of tyres from a pit stop here, and save yourself the 10 seconds in the pit stop. We know it's a dangerous thing to do.
But I think it's probably too early. I think it's too early for trying to think about that. If this was in the last 20 minutes of the race or 25 minutes of the race, I'd be saying absolutely.
Yeah, I think the problem is I turned a few laps in practice, and the problem is that last sector.
Here we go. Their stop's going. In goes
Bolger.
Steve Bolger's in. So Steve Bolger goes in, and Lewis Wedding in. So
Brian
good call.
Walsh.
Brian Walsh in, and those guys probably down the back, I think, are probably going to come as well. So
that's very interesting. Brian Walsh coming in. I'm not sure that's the. Sorry, not Brian Walsh. Steve Bolger coming in. I don't think that's the right choice.
And that's a very fast stop as well, right? It's a very fast stop.
He's only done fuel. He's not done tyres.
That
does
give him the luxury of not having to worry about fuel. I think for the front engine guys particularly, it's not easy one stop, but it's manageable one stop. You do still have to manage that fuel load. For Bolger to come in now, he doesn't have to manage it. He can go hell for leather. He can harass these guys. At the end of the stint, he can bully these guys as much as he wants because he has the luxury now of being filled up to the end of the stint. So
wasn't really going to be worrying about fuel anyway, was he? Really?
I'm not sure. I haven't run his numbers. I haven't run any numbers. I didn't even run my own numbers when I was running in practice.
Mid-engine car too. So it's the only mid-engine car or very few mid-engine cars that are out there. The Audi and the Ferrari sort of very, very similar on overall setup and physics. So
and the Lamborghini
as well. So fuel consumption for those guys, and he's got to the back there. But I guess the concern for me is he had time in his pocket to put tyres on there, and he hasn't put tyres on. Is that a fatal mistake, considering that the likes of Wedding and Walsh definitely would have changed tyres? You can see there's Wedding in the back of shot coming through 5 and 6. So he's a good, 20 overall exit behind Bolger exiting the lane. This might be this will be a head scratcher. This one.
I don't think so, because the tyres have only had 3 laps. We're 15 minutes in now, but a lot of that has been under safety car, and it's only been 3 proper laps in anger. You don't take, you certainly take the shine off the tyres. You certainly take maybe that outright pace. You're not going to see
taking
it
about 10 to 15% out of the tyres, depending on how you're looking at it, and that could have an impact at the end. It definitely has an impact on that initial first 2 or 3 laps pace. It might mean that he doesn't quite get as many people off the line and has to take a little bit longer getting through the field, which is going to be costing more time. And we can see that Wedding is rolling up behind him now. So realistically, he would have come out ahead of Wedding anyway if he'd taken the tyres. So there was no reason not to.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right. I think the option was there to take the tyres, because the big issue for Bolger now and for Wedding is they've got to process the cars ahead of them. They're definitely faster. They need to make this strategy work. They need to get through much faster. Just noticing Lewis Wedding just slowing down on the back straight there. I'm wondering if there's a little something going on that maybe he's just trying to resolve. So he's gotten going again. So that's all okay. Look, the important thing was there was no cars on the that were a lap down that needed to be told to get out of the way. So that part's all okay. Maybe Lewis just had a very minor technical hitch or something there. As I think we're going to get one more lap under safety car, or are we going to be done? I think we're probably going to get at least one more.
Yeah.
Here we go. And there's are there any cars going late? Rosella in. Okay. And Rossi. And who else is going? Zach Brown. Steve Warwick, Glenn Miles, and Bolger again.
why not top it off if you're Bolger? He'll come out ahead of all these guys. The interesting thing for me...
No, he's going for tyres now. He's gone for... There he is. That's
Okay.
So he missed it in the stop. So, that could be... He's not going to have to worry about fuel, but having to stop again for the tyres, I'm just going to keep an eye and see if he comes out ahead of them all.
Yeah, what Bolger should have done is take the tyres last time round. Don't bother about fueling up here because it's much of a muchness. You're only going to need one stop from here anyway. And he would have been up in 10th, or sorry, 11th at this point. And we would just saved having to pass a whole bunch of people.
He still might be.
Actually, I mean, yeah.
He's passed them all, right? So
12th,
he's passed them all that stopped. So that's a lucky break. I'd consider that a very lucky break for Bolger, that he realised, oh, I've got to go and I may as well change my tyres. And look, even if he did have to put fuel in, it was not going to be much anyway. It was going to be a couple of drops. It was almost non-existent. But, I mean, he's having to pit again. He's now got to sort of, he doesn't have to, has to cruise up, you know, at a reasonably decent clip to catch the back of the train.
Is how easily is it going to be for him to get past Lewis Wedding? Because if he ends up with a Kubica or Alonso 2010 situation here with Lewis Wedding, he'll be ruining not having taken those tyres beforehand and having that position on him for free instead of having to earn it. I mean, I doubt that's going to happen, but because he is racing so well and definitely faster than Lewis at this point. But if something like that would happen, he would definitely be regretting this decision.
Greg Tara just give the safety car a little bit of a nudge. I'm just wondering there. Let's have a look.
Safety car is slowing a few spots.
I think it's only 80 k's an hour. It's just the way one of the track goes, I think. But was Tara caught out here? Because he did jerk to the left side. Yeah, there we go. Oh no, it just got out of the way of the safety car as there was a little bit of a weird moment there. So that's a bit odd. That wasn't, I guess, expected to be happening. The safety car sort of brake checking the field.
It's one of those things with certain circuits, is the way that the track is actually mapped onto the tarmac. It means that occasionally the safety car does weird things. So Taro just lucky to have a bit of a berth there to make sure it didn't plough into the rear of the Camaro.
And this is the thing too. The drivers are instructed to give at least a sort of the length that Tara's got on the safety car at the moment, about that sort of distance, not just to the safety car, but to each other as well. Just because if there's any of those sort of unusual checkups, that they can just go along and they can get away with it. Usually we do have a safety car driver. Unfortunately, Brent Ross is here in the serve tonight, and Scott Nolan, who's usually the safety car driver, I believe, is actually been caught up with a bit of work as well. So the safety car is on the automated game pilot mode, we call it, and it goes around the last couple of corners. We might get it coming in this time. Usually it's definitely two laps, and then there's two random laps on top, so it could be one, it could be two, and it is going to be in.
Yeah, there we go. So we're ready for a restart here. Greg Tara will lead the field away from Tim Redmond, Noah Tara. It looks like Ben Hall's even coming to the pits now. Why would you come now?
This could cause. This might cause a problem in terms of how things go here. There might be a penalty issue. Be lucky if there isn't, and luckily there isn't.
He got into the pit soon enough that it didn't cause an issue.
Yeah, correct. So that's lucky for lucky break for the guys there. There might have been a few issues. It actually gives another spot to Bolger in how it all works out, and to Lewis Wedding. So Greg Tara leads them away through turns 1 and 2. A single file restart from Redmond, Noah Tara, and Turmo, and Nathan Higginson, who's moved up the order with everybody coming in ahead to take their stops. A couple of guys, go.
The two that we're looking at in this back pack, most specifically, are Luke Rosella, who's currently in 14th behind Steve Warwick, and Steve Bolger, who's currently in 11th, to make that 10th place as he processes through Brian Walsh. So these are the guys who are looking to come through the field on those fresh tyres, on that fresh fuel, and who are going to be up the front in no short order.
Here they come. So Lewis Wedding was one of the ones to stop, so he's up to 8th. Bolger's now up to 9th. And Luke Rosella currently 14th. There he is, chasing Steve Warwick, playing snakies across the Mistral straight with the Bentley. Bentley punching a big hole in the air for that Porsche. And these two have now got a nice little bit of clean air gap. The next target for Wedding and
there's
Bolger.
a spin in the background there. I think that's Zach Brown and Glenn Miles, who are facing the wrong way down the Mistral straight.
Yeah, lucky not to get another safety car out of that one as well. They have been facing the wrong way. So let's have a look here. It's a bit of an inattentive moment from Miles. We did see the snakies being played. This one's unfolding just ahead of them. Might not get a good angle on this. And Oh yeah, that's a mistake from Miles. Just inattentive, just caught out in the braking zone with the cars ahead. Nowhere to go. That's a bit of a brain fade moment there.
The Bolger wedding battle is now on.
And I was just umming and ahhing about Luke Rosella, who whipped up 3 people around the double right-hander at the bottom of the circuit, swooped around Steve Warwick, and then cleaned up both PJ and Brian Walsh, now sitting 11th.
So he's now to 11th place. He's just about to feint a shot. There he is, ahead of Brian Walsh and the Audi belonging to PJ. So he's up to P11, Wedding up to 8th. Bulger right in his wheel tracks in 9th. The next target for them is Luke Emerson, and then Taipan after that.
And guys, we've just missed Noah Tara jumping into 2nd place, but Tim Redmond's actually going to fight that back down into turn 3 and puts McLaren back into 3rd, back into 2nd rather. So Noah actually made the move in turns 1 and 2, and then Redmond was good enough to get that back through turn 3.
Good job. Very good battle between those guys as well. You know what? I'm actually surprised. I'm actually surprised that the Taras didn't elect to split strategies there, and we've seen before they've had some issues on pit road. Now they've got to try and work out from a flexibility point of view who stops earlier than the other. They're going to probably have to split it by about 1 lap, I think. They've got no choice now.
Bolger's having a go on Wedding.
A bit further back. Here it is. Bagsy called it perfectly. They've been tucked in behind, and it's also because Wedding's tucked in behind Luke Emerton here as well. But Wedding will have a little bit of ground on the inside here, and Bolger leaves him a space. Wedding will leave him some on the outside, and he'll hang on just for the minute.
They're both trying to use him as a pick at the moment. It's just not working.
Slipstream
Yeah,
and
that
a
was
pick.
very, very complicated with the Audi there, right where everyone didn't want him to be for both Wedding and Bolger through that entire sequence. They fly through seam
slide from
water.
Wedding. And Emerton's got his
Ivan's gone
very
deep.
slippery, but it's too slippery. It's gone around the outside, but Bolger's going to try to take it on the inside as well.
Oh, I've seen that
Still
move
side by big
a
twitch from Bolger.
I've seen that move end in tears a million times there. The wide line is the racing line there, and Bolger just tried to cram a Ferrari where a Ferrari shouldn't really have been. And he's actually going to lose out here. Brendan Ross is right on his tail, and look at that right at the very end of that group is Luke Rosella, who dives on the inside as well.
Yeah, they come down. You see
back through as well, so that's bad for Bolger because Wedding's going to start romping away, and Emerson's going to continue being this little miniature roadblock, although Bolger's got alongside him now, and there's someone in the pit.
Noah Tara. Noah Tara's
Tara?
in.
Just
as I was talking about it, Noah Tara comes to the lane. So that's early. That's way too early to make this on a single stop from here.
Basically.
Yeah, so that's a strategy miscue. I mean, I was talking about it, saying they're going to have to split this by a lap, but I expected them to get way closer to about 30 minutes to go before they had to come in for a stop there, maybe 35.
That's only 23 minutes. That's not a stint. That's not a stint.
Oh, Bolger out of control through the off the apex of 4, makes him narrow for 5. So he's overdriving it here. Just needs to get back into a rhythm. Maybe let Luke Rosella go through here and just see, because Rosella's definitely the quicker of the Porsches in the field tonight out of the 3 that are in there. Just let him go and maybe just see if he can drag you along for the ride. And you can do a little bit of fuel saving there as well. Then you don't have to put so much fuel in at your final stop.
It's a complicated little game at the moment. Bolger, I think Bolger is the fastest man on circuit, but with these little pressure mistakes as he's trying to process through the field, that's why Lewis Wedding, for example, is so good. He can do that and keep his head, keep his cool. Probably because of all the ice break, right? That's haha. I know, right? But Bolger, he's still gaining that experience. He's still trying to find a way to be the fast guy, because it is a challenge to be the guy who has the pace and has the flexibility. You do need to actually keep a cool head to make that work for you sometimes. So now with Luke Rosella and Lewis Wedding around him, he's going to find a bit of a rhythm here and just start chopping away the laps, because let's look, last lap around for Bolger, it was a 2:07 flat. In contrast, Tim Redmond, 2nd place, a 2:04.6. So that's precious time that's just being pissed away at the moment for Bolger.
It is, and on top of that now he's caught Lewis Wedding again, and now has to be in position to get a pass done, but the margin was a lot higher than that now, but he's got to be really careful because he's got a Porsche that wants to make a pass, he's got a Porsche he wants to make a pass on. If he pulls the trigger at the wrong spot, there's going to be a gap open up, and you can see here, just steps a car length to the left and just covers off that line, just to discourage Rosella from having a go at turn 1. Hasn't quite worked out here because Rosella's got a fantastic run through the first couple of corners. Might have a nibble at 3, and
Definitely
he does.
has a
Here
nibble.
he just showed the nose. Wasn't quite there.
Rosella was the fastest man in Sector 1 in qualifying, so he certainly knows how to get through those sweeping corners at 1 and 2 very, very effectively. But now the Ferrari should open up and show its pace advantage. But again, just a little wiggle in the middle of turn 6, and Bolger's lost all that pace advantage. It's just these little tiny little mistakes here, which is just condemning Bolger to losing time on the guys that he's actually racing against, while this battle with the Porsches is just hamstringing him.
Nathan Higginson's just wanting a move here on Turbo at the chicane.
No, he was already ahead. These two have been battling for the last 7 or 8 corners, back and forth. But Higginson's been on top for the last lap or so. It's Turbo trying to make the move on Higo, but he's really doing quite a good job.
Taipan closing in on them as well, and then the trio behind them that are still duking it out.
Bolger did get through
He's
that
through
time.
there though. He is though through that, so that's important for Bolger.
Yeah, did get through at the Nord chicane, so now he's just going to settle for a second and then get on with it. As Rosella just takes a very, very wide line, probably a little too wide there, but will gain that pace back through the second apex as we're almost halfway through the race, lads.
Yeah,
getting there, certainly getting there.
Now, Noah Tara, the important thing for Noah Tara is he is dead last on the road at the moment. Here he is, and he's got a long way to go. He needs a safety car to have any shot of really being in with getting back up the pointy end of the order. This could be, as we said before, championship defining for Noah Tara. He could be out of this. This sort of paves the way for his father to be, the one that has to take the chocolates today. He's got no wingman anymore. This is the big problem. Greg has got no wingman, and in a straight fight with Steve Bolger, he needs all the help he can get at the minute because it's been awfully tight at the top of the point standings for some time now, for about the last 3 or 4 rounds. There's only 5 points in it coming into tonight, so Greg Tara out in front. Okay at the moment, smooth sailing, but with all the pit stop strategy stuff to unfold, big question mark as to how much time he needs in hand over Bolger. At the moment, he's got 13.9 seconds.
Ooh, Rosella's just snuck his way through on Bolger through turn 6. They're going to go side by side down the Mistral straight, though. The Porsche swings out very, very wide over the exit curve at turn 7. And, in fact, takes the lead again.
Three wide move behind the cars as well. So Bolger trying for an inside move. Rosella was trying for an inside move on Taipan. Skates it through. Rosella needs to get the run here. Oh, big switch in the mid-corner as well. That Rosella would not have expected that. That gives Wedding a run. What are these guys going to do? This is going to be like a train. Toot, bump draft. Here we go. Look at this.
And they're going to come up towards Scene Corner. You got to sort it out before Scene Corner because it gets messy very quickly here. They slide their way through and they
How wide do they try and go here?
Rosella dives towards the inside. Oh, that's the block pass. That's the MotoGP block pass.
Slide job, NASCAR style, if you're asking me.
Slide job.
And that's pushed Bolger away. So Rosella, I don't think Rosella was actually trying to make a move on Taipan at the Nord chicane. I think he was just trying to react to Bolger and try and keep him behind. But that's actually slowed them down quite a bit. They were on the tail of Taipan and that group ahead, but now Rosella's trying to sneak his way through on Taipan. He's going to go the long way at Garage Capon and gets it done. So Bolger, again, is just looking unsettled, specifically in the rear of that car. Just something doesn't seem right for that Ferrari. And at the moment, it's playing into Greg Tara's hands at the head of the field.
Luke Rosella, we can't count out as this bit, as Higo and Turmo are still going out. They haven't stopped while we're watching this battle. It's a shame we're missing their side battle because this one is just, actually, they're side by side at the moment. Oh my goodness. But
don't know where to look.
But Rosella's drive through the field here because he was at the back of all this and is now going to be joining this fight soon. This is about to become a 6-car scrap for the final spot on the podium. Everyone's forgot about Tim Redmond, who's just sitting in second by himself, just enjoying the view. But Turmo and Higo absolutely going.
And we've just seen I've just seen another little mistake from Bolger. He tried to throw the car down the inside of Taipan at turn 5, made contact, and actually ended up behind Lewis Wedding because of it. So he's really not having the run of it at the moment. And we've got to wonder if he'd taken tyres on his first run through the pits, would he even have been in this situation?
That's the big question as well. As I said, I thought it was probably the wrong decision for Steve Bolger to come to pit lane that early. I said, if you're about sort of 12th on back, my money was come in and get it. You've got nothing to lose. But Bolger had track position. And in a race where probably fuel mileage was going to become a concern, I thought he was probably in the box seat to get to about 5 or 6 minutes from now, and he probably would have been able to make it home. The safety car has changed the face of this race, unfortunately for Bolger, who goes through on Taipan now. It's fast becoming unstuck for him, because he's now 17.5 seconds off the race lead.
Rosella's got Turbo as well.
He did the same move on Turbo that he did to Bolger the lap before, just with a little less contact. This time Turbo gave him plenty of room, and Rosella's even going to grab Higo before this lap is done, mark my words. He's not quite going to swing out at 16, but he comes into Virage du Pont, and
that's
he
late.
goes shots the door.
Yeah, that was too late for Rosella. There was no room at the end there, so Higo was entitled to the racing line, but
consider Floodie's words marked, but marked is incorrect, because Higo is still ahead temporarily for however much longer, we can't really say, but it's probably measured in seconds, not minutes.
No, it'll be down here in 3. If Rosella gets a good run, it'll be here in 3, and he's got the run. So here we go. This will be where he put a pass on, or tried to put a pass on a little while ago. And if it's not 3, it's going to be probably at the bottom end, or the halfway down the Mistral Straight.
Oh,
Higo got wild again across the curb, and I think Lewis Wedding cut
it back under.
Yeah, Lewis Wedding cut the chicane in too.
I think so. He's firing across that curb, but he's able to get it under control. He's got a lot of stability when the car's unstable, to poorly explain it, as he's going super defensive, but when that car's unstable, it's really wanting to go back to that neutral state really quickly. He's really good for his drivability.
Oh, double move on here. Rosella on Higginson and Bolger on Turmo. No, neither gets done. Again, chop the nose off both of those cars. The front engine machines really showing their straight line advantage down the Mistral Straight as they come up the hill towards C corner once again. It's been enthralling stuff from this group, hasn't it?
Now Turmo's having a go on Rosella. Is he going to be able to make something happen down here?
This has been the spot for Rosella, though, down into this double apex right-hander.
Turmo's got a bird's eye view of it as well. Look at this, over and under on the cutback. Higginson.
Too wide, though.
Is he
Maybe?
getting? No. Rosella's going to hold line. Bolger through on Turmo. So there you go. We didn't see that coming from the onboard.
Snuck his way through. So now Rosella. Oh, he runs wide. He throws it wide at 14. Higo almost loses it as well.
Bolger going to back him. I think that probably cost Higginson a run.
And they're going to go side by side into 15 or 16 here. Higo has to spray it wide, and Bolger goes through. Is he going to arrow towards the corner? Chops the nose. So Rosella and Bolger through on that group. Higo's full sprint car stuff out onto the line. This is going to be 3 or 4 wide as they come down the main straight, and Rosella's going to be the ones grinning at the end of it.
Rosella's gone. So he's got the break he needs here. So it's all about what Bolger and Higo can do behind them. He goes on worn tyres as well, so this is the problem. He hasn't stopped, so he's got the worst tyres of the lot. So too is Turmo. Their tyres are pretty much getting toward the end of their life, or the end of their stint life in the next 5 minutes or so, and they're fighting with guys that have actually got really good rubber under their feet. So they need to be really careful now and make sure they can get to the one and only stop that we expect that they're going to be making.
Just as an aside, guys, gap at the front, it's 2.5 seconds Greg Tara to Tim Rebin. It's 15 seconds back to Rosella. It's the entire length of the Mistral Straight before the chicane. So that's a long way to overcome for Rosella, Bolger, Higo, Turmo, and Lewis Wedding if they want to challenge for the win of the race.
Rosella and Co will have much shorter stops, though, fuel-wise.
Yes, and that was the next point I was just about to make. We're looking at the clock now. We are almost at exactly half race distance, and if you are the guys up the front, you really want to be getting to 32 or 30 minutes left on the clock, just to make sure that you can make it home without any aggressive fuel saving. Because that's, I think, what the battle is going to be here. It's going to be whether or not the guys at the front have to fuel save so aggressively that they lose this 20-second advantage that they've got to the group behind.
Well, it's all settled down a little bit, thankfully, behind them now. So Bolger is now chasing Rosella. So these are the guys that have already stopped and will have a much shorter fill and probably ties in. He is indeed. Race leader can't make it. So this is right on 35 minutes. remaining. So this is precisely
early.
It's early considering the safety car intervention. So if you didn't have a safety car intervention and you got this far, I would give it a big tick.
And remember, it's +1 lap at the end as well.
Correct.
This is actually quite a difficult position for Taro to be in, because he's got a foot in both ponds and he's going to have to make a decision very, very early on in this stint.
That's
yeah,
right.
that's the thing. Like Rosella, Wedding, Bolger, any of them coming in now, I'd say, yeah, they could make it to the end. Greg Tara, I don't know. I've really never seen him properly fuel save, and he's going to have to properly fuel save to make it to the end here.
Luke Emerton in as well. Greg Tara still stationary, keeping an eye on them in background just to see how they're going with regards to the fuel stop. So there you are. You can see there's Greg Tara stationary in the lane, now on the move. And of course, there's no cars a lap down at the moment as well. So Greg's going to come back out right into traffic. And there's Noah Tara in the background, just going down out of the final corner. So there's a massive gap there as well. So Greg Tara comes out in a net 13th. But he has clear track. That's the important thing. He's got nobody in front of him for at least a half a kilometre.
And he's about 45 seconds behind Luke Rosella. So he wants to keep that at about 45, 50 seconds to be guaranteed to come out ahead. And he's going to want that to be doing that while absolutely fuel saving for his life.
I'm just taking a quick look at the lap times here, guys, and it makes some very interesting viewing. Last lap around, Tim Redmond, a 2:03.9 at the head of the field. Remember, he's at the very, very dead end of his stint, compared to the group behind, the Rosella, Bolger, Turmo group, all in the 4.6s. Bolger was actually the quickest with the 4.1, but very much not losing any pace out the front is Tim Redmond, who sets this time around a 4.6. So that's a bit more like the pace of those behind him. But he's looking fairly comfortable at the moment as he clocks another lap, which means that he's going to get to at least 30.5 minutes left in the race.
All right, here we go. More callers on pit lane. So Turmo going through. Higginson bringing Taipan to the lane. So there's a couple more for your mathematics book, or in case of Bagsy, his book of many pit stop notebook of many pit stops. I think we can probably safely call it.
And just to round off my point about the lap times, completely flipped last lap around. 4.6 for Redmond, Rosella and Bolger a 4 flat and a 3.8. So this pair now are starting to try and reel in the solitary leader as he looks to make a pit stop soon. And these guys also will be looking to make a pit stop soon. If they can stretch it maybe to 25 minutes remaining and do a shorter stint, I think that'll be the ideal, unless, of course, we see a safety car.
That's it. I mean, that's the thing. Safety cars sort of thrown the cat amongst the pigeons here in terms of sorting out who pits and when they pit, and sort of made it maybe a little bit of an easier mathematics guessing game to work out who's going to fall where when everybody comes out. You can work this out now that Tim Redmond, when he comes in, will drop in probably somewhere around 11th spot, so behind Greg Tara, but ahead of Glenn Miles, and probably behind Brian Walsh there as well. And then when these guys come in, they've got 15 seconds on it, but then you've got to maybe discount about 10 or 15 seconds as well for the shorter stop, and that they're going to be sort of right with those guys once the whole field is cleansed. So it's going to be a close run thing. The full numbers are not quite worked out just yet. It'll probably start to play a little bit more closer to the pit stop, second lot of pit stops for Rosella, Bolger and co. Redmond coming in this time. Yes, race leader is in.
So remember, he was about 2.5 seconds, Bagsy, behind Greg Tara before this spell of pit stops. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes out in relationship to him. Then, of course, these guys who are coming across the line now, where they all play out later on.
He's got a downhill pit bay too, Tim Redmond. I think, yeah, he has. He's in the second lot of bays. So he's now at the, we can't see him, he's actually off screen. But Bolger and Rosella go through. Yeah, Redmond's in the second group of bays, so he's gone past the flat and is on that downhill incline. So he's going to have to hold the brake here as well to make sure that car doesn't roll forward.
Greg Tara is just coming through turn 12 now. He's just made his way through both PJ and Brian Walsh. He actually got held up for a little bit behind Walshy in the pink GTR. So it'll be interesting now as he comes into the final corner where he pops out in relation to Redmond. Is he on the move just yet?
Not yet.
So Redmond's still stationary, and here comes Greg Turra to the line now. Turbo is in, by the way, so that's another one. I think Redmond moving now. So right, here we go. So he's going to come in behind Greg Turra. He's come in behind Brian Walsh, so that's perfect. Noah Turra might get him actually.
And he does.
And he does. So that's important for Greg Turra, and make sure he's got a little bit of protection from a championship point of view. But we know Noah Turra has gone way too early and will need to stop again for probably, I would imagine it's going to be a splash and dash. That's the other thing to think about too, guys. Noah Turra would have taken some tyres in that stop, but coming in at 45-minute mark, he's only going to need fuel. He's only going to have probably about a 12-minute or so dash to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I don't see
the logic. I don't see the logic either, though. But that will be an interesting one to see how that pans out for him, given he's going to be on very used rubber, having to take that stop.
And you've got to say, I haven't seen some of the races. I didn't see Laguna Seca, and I didn't see as we got Steve Warwick taking a very, very wide line through the double apex right-hander at the bottom of the circuit.
Yeah, he's another one yet to stop.
I've got to say that the Turra's shortfall this season has been their strategy. They've had pace at every single round. But it has been their strategy that has let them down, either by not communicating with each other and pitting on the same lap, or so like they have to pit on top of each other effectively, or running out of fuel, or making just a weird or misplaced strategy call. It's been what's taken away some points from them this season, and I think that might be something if they do a post-mortem, if they want to figure out how to...
Lewis Wedding's in the pits.
Yes, I was about to say that. Lewis is in, and this will be the benchmark now as to how this works out with regards to Greg Turra, because Turra's coming through the last couple of corners now, and Wedding's still stationary in the lane. I think he's actually doing full service with tyres as well. I mean, he's got no choice here, but it's a slightly shorter fill stop. But this
Turra's going to go clean through.
Yeah, Turra's going clean through. Noah Turra's going to go through as...
Into the pits.
Noah's in the pits. So there goes Noah Turra. And Lewis Wedding is now officially on the move. Oh, had to wait.
Look at that.
Got held up slightly.
Worked out.
Yeah, got held up slightly in pit lane as well with Noah Turra coming in. So
Noah Turra's doing tyres too.
Yeah, so that's Noah going early, realising that, you know what, I may as well come in early and do a short middle stint. That allows Redmond to get out into, takes up 7th place now behind Greg Turra. But a good important thing is Greg's got a margin now.
He has. He's got 12 seconds ahead of him to chase down Zach Brown, and he's got 6.5 seconds behind him. So that was a big win for Greg in the pit sequence in terms of getting track position and getting an air gap to Tim Redmond, who he was on the same strategy with. But it remains to be seen whether or not Greg can make that car survive thirst for the final few drops to make it to the end of that stint. Yeah, it's going to be very tight.
It is. What do these two do now? The race leaders, the ones that have taken the early stop and have got a short field to go. Does any of them come this lap? Bolger coming this lap, so that's important. There he goes in the lane, and he's got an early bay as well on the flat. Now, drivers yet to stop as well for the final time. Brendan Ross, Steve Warwick, Zach Brown. So that's cars in positions 3, 4 and 5 on the road as it stands right now. And Rossi going through again. And then we come back to Steve Warwick, the Blackshaw's Bentley. He's going around again. And then Zach Brown in the Audi is the next one that we're going to be interested in. And Greg Turra is not that far away. Greg Turra is only just up the road. Bolger's still stationary. And Zach Brown going around again. Bolger's doing a full service here, guys, and he's going to be held. I think he's going to lose position here. There he is. Here comes Greg Turra, and this is going to be an easy pass at the end of the day. Bolger's on the move now. Yeah, so now the next question for Bolger is, where does he fall out between Greg Turra and Tim Redmond? I think he's going to be behind Redmond.
Well, remember, the gap before the pit stop sequence was about 17, 18 seconds. So it's not surprising to me that he's behind. Let's see at the end of the first sector how far behind he is. We've got another pit call at Brian Walsh. Lewis Wedding is in 10th place. So he'll jump up to 9th rather. And he is 18 seconds behind Steve Bolger. So, Where is he in relation to Redmond and Tara? That's what I'm looking at. 24 seconds behind Tara, so we're sort of expecting that sort of gap already.
Bolger's 13 seconds behind Tara, so Greg Tara that is. So he has gained, but Greg's been setting quick laps. He's not going to make it at this rate unless these guys can go. Generally 35 minutes has been a bridge too far for the
plus one lap
BMWs. Yeah, and we've got that was 35 minutes including a safety car. Admittedly, it did include a formation lap, but that was including a safety car. There is no way that Greg Tara's going to make it in. So really, the gap to Bolger is academic. The gap to Greg Tara is academic for Bolger. It's the gap to Redmond because Redmond can make it to the end.
Correct.
We saw him make it a long way, including that safety car. Redmond is in a very good position here.
Yeah, certainly. Luke Rosella's continued around for another lap. His last lap was a 2:04.6, just to give you an idea of whereabouts his lap time sits. He's really trying to shorten up this final stint. Maybe to go on maybe to stay on the same tyres. But I think if you're going to make the last stint as short as possible, might as well put fresh rubber on and try and bully those around you who might not have the same rubber. We're waiting for lap times from Greg Tara and from Tim Redmond to sort of get a bit of an idea of the relationship at the moment.
Tara's going to go purple at this rate.
Yeah, so Tara was purple in sector 1, and it was a 3.3, and he set the fastest lap of the race at a 3.2 last time around, so that's pretty consistent. Redmond with a 3.7. So it's 4 tenths of a second slower that last time around, and the deficit is little under 8 seconds between Tara and Redmond, and then another further 6 seconds back to Bolger. So you're right, Greg Tara, by maybe putting a couple of hot laps in early, I'm wondering whether he's going to go ultra fuel conservative now and think, you know what, I've got enough margin that I can maybe just ease off and go a couple of tenths of seconds slower for the next 22 minutes per lap and make it home. So he's, I think, maybe looking to buy an insurance policy here, but I'm still skeptical if this is the right decision.
Rosella there is about 45 seconds between Rosella and Greg at the moment.
Correct.
Rosella cannot take tyres, and he can make his tyres last to the end of the race. It won't be ideal, but he can make his tyres last to the end of the race. While he have worse tyres than Greg, he won't have to fuel save like Greg does. He'll be able to have a shorter fuel stop, and fuel is what really drags these pit stops out. He'll be able to have a shorter fuel stop, not take tyres, save 10 seconds there. He could quite easily come out ahead of Tara potentially, and force Tara to use fuel to try and catch him when he wants to be saving. Or he can end up behind him and pressure him, even though with worse tyres. You can finish on shitty tyres and do slow lap times. You can't finish on no fuel. Your lap ends because you're not moving anymore. The tyres can all be exploded. You'll still be able to use the engine to drive it along.
I don't quite believe that, but I almost think
more than a car without fuel.
That's true. Yeah, I think. If you're Rosella, I don't really think you need to worry about Tara. I think Tara's fuel problems are going to remove him from at least the race winning position. I think you got to look more at Redmond and Bolger and what strategy that you take that will be affected by what they do, or what's the thing that they don't want you to do. Do they want you to come out ahead? Maybe not so much. Maybe they're confident in going through, as Bolger sets the fastest lap of the race at 2:03.1. Maybe they're more confident in that final sector or in that first sector, using up the tyres and chasing you. One of Luke Rosella's greatest strengths so far this race has been that pass and that double apex right-hander, and using the tyres through those faster corners. Maybe he needs those tyres to affect that. On the flip side, if he doesn't take those tyres, does that leave him as a sitting duck in that final sector? Is that something that he can really drive around? So if I was a race driver here and you told me you can pit now, take fuel, take tyres, and end up maybe 2 seconds behind Bolger, I'd take that as opposed to not having tyres and sitting maybe 10 seconds ahead. Maybe not 10 seconds ahead, maybe 5 seconds ahead.
Yeah, maybe right there. It's amazing, though, with all the pit stops and everything that are finally shaking out now, Higginson and Turmo have found each other again. So they're down at turn 5 now, and Brendan Ross has joined this little battle as well. So that's good to see. Nice little 3-car battle for 6th, 7th and 8th overall, while all the maths are starting to work their way out. Actually, just
Ross has done well to recover.
He has indeed. Bagsy, just doing the numbers as well, coming back to the fuel and the pit stop sequence, it's about 20 to 25 second net loss just in pit lane transit time alone, right? So Greg Tara with a 47-second deficit to Luke Rosella. Now, if Luke Rosella goes the route you're suggesting and decides to just take fuel only instead of tyres, that's probably looking at somewhere around about a 10 to 12 second stop on top of the 25-second transit time. So now to about 37. By the time you slow down and get back up to speed, that could actually be mightily close.
Yeah, the thing is that Rosella can really entirely discount Tara because Tara's not going to make it on fuel. But it's easier for us to know that because we've been watching when everyone's been stopping. Rosella might have an idea of when Tara stopped and how his fuel is, but he doesn't know how Tara. He doesn't know that Tara isn't lifting off in the corners and things like that. We have so much more information, so we do occasionally here, maybe more than occasionally, fall victim to the why is he doing this? This is the stupidest strategy I've ever seen in my life, when we're not also trying to pilot a car around and have a lot less information available to us. It's, you know, probably one of the reasons that I am not very good at driving the race car is because I spend too much time thinking about the strategy, and suddenly I'm, you know, off in the weeds somewhere enjoying someone's picnic that I've driven through because I've been too busy thinking about my fuel numbers and trying to do the maths in my head.
Just quickly, lads, Steve Bolger, as Bagsy was talking, 203 flat. He is easily the fastest guy out of the top 5. He has reeled in a full second over Tim Redmond that last lap around. Gap now between those two, less than 3 seconds. So that is a, 10 second swing? Oh, sorry, that's gone from 8 seconds down to 3 in the last 2 or 3 laps.
It was six coming out of the final
Rosella
stop,
in.
so it all worked out. There you go, you're right, Rosella is in, so he's pulled the trigger now. What does he do? Who else is that in the lane with him? I think that's Luke Emerton. Tyres on the stop, so he got no choice. So he decided they weren't good enough condition to keep going. So let's turn our attention to Greg Tara. Let's see where he comes at. He might not be able to make it on fuel, but he will affect the race result overall. Coming through 12, so 3 more corners remaining, while we keep an eye out for Luke Rosella on the other screen to see what he's up to. Still stationary in the lane. Won't be taking on a huge amount of fuel though, so that's important for where he feeds out into this. As Tara gets to the final corner, makes a big mistake.
Whoa.
Makes a big mistake, pushing too hard. That's cost him about a second there alone.
Rosella still hasn't moved.
And it hasn't moved just yet. So there's Redmond. There's Bolger in a back of shot, and Rosella's on the move. There he is. So importantly, Luke Rosella on the move. Who comes out of down the main straight now? Redmond will go whizzing by. There he goes. And Steve Bolger won't be far behind him. There goes the Ferrari. So that'll be your top 3 in shot there. So Bolger closing in on Redmond, and Rosella's going to have a fresh set of boots and a very, very light Porsche to go hunting.
Yeah, Bolger had set in a few mega laps in between Rosella's stop and his to build that gap. Remember, Bolger was just behind Rosella before he stopped, so that's now a 5-6 second gap, maybe a little bit less, but this has certainly compressed the front of the field.
Now the thing here for Tim Redmond, what he wants, his ideal scenario here is Rosella catches Bolger before Bolger catches him, because if that happens, he's automatically gets at least a half a second a lap while they're battling that he can use to try and get away. And I mean, he's got Greg Tara visual now as well. We don't think Greg's going to have an impact in this race. If he does somehow manage to eke out the fuel, it will have been a miraculous performance, but I do not think that's going to happen. He's most likely going to end up somewhere, perhaps even behind the Higginson Turmo battle, in which Brendan Ross battle, because he's in there as well. I think they're actually
they've swapped around a bit.
At the moment.
Rossi's got the pair of them at some point in the last couple of laps. He's gone to the head of this train.
It was right now because I was watching the timing tower swap between the
two. 3 wide. 3 wide on the Mistral Straight. Well, it's wide enough, but only for a brief moment. It's not the whole 4 wide sprint car style going around at all the sprint car tracks in Australia. But Higginson goes back to the lead here. The front engine car's obviously got plenty of poke in a straight line. Rossi's got to go to the back of the queue for that one, so that's not worked out for him. And then behind them, we've got Taipan and Steve Warwick, the last 2 spots in the 10, and they've been just sort of come together in the last couple of laps.
Turmo down the inside of scene. No, there's not room there, guys. Don't try it. That does compromise his exit a little bit, which brings us back into that little fun.
It does. And look at this here. So Higginson's got the wide line trying to Luke Rosella line. Termo a little bit narrower for the first part of the corner, then trying to pick up the second apex. Brendan Ross with the box seat here. It's all going on in front of him. Different lines. This is why it's such a technical part of the track. And Higginson was well overcommitted through 12 there as well. So miles away from anything.
Does he take the arrow here this turn? No, he stays on the racing line.
Mid-corner wiggle for Higginson as well as put him off line for the final corner as well. And Turmo will have a great run here, but he just can't execute. He just can't get close enough.
I think it's a bit hard for the pits there.
Swept across to try and break the toe, and it's actually forced all of them to sweep across the racetrack. 1, 2, 3, well, 6, 7, 8 into turn 1.
And a bit further behind as well. Looks like it might have been Warwick just trying to size up a move on Taipan that just didn't quite happen as they got to the braking zone here. It's starting to get interesting out the front, so last laps around. Greg Turret, 203.9. Tim Redmond, 203.5. Steve Bolger, 203.3. Luke Rosella had an outlap at 210.73, so we really didn't get a truly representative indication of, but he did gain time over the final 2 sectors. So this lap will be the telling lap to work out what sort of pace everybody's got. Importantly for Greg Tara, he's now catching traffic.
And that is traffic in the form of PJ. So depending on where Greg grabs him, should be mostly academic as long as PJ sees him coming.
Yep,
and he does. So sweeps just straight out the way.
PJ's
the inside lane.
PJ's been doing 209s, and I think that's what Greg Tara needs to do to be able to have fuel for the end at this point.
Well, PJ was Tara's best friend at Imola a couple of rounds ago, with the last lap pass and being the pick in the sandwich that got him the win over Damon Woods as well. He was his best friend there again because he got the pass done at a very, very nice part of the track. And there might not be too far away from a pass happening here. This whole strategy that Bagsy was talking about before. Redmond's hoping that Rosella catches Bolger before, or Bolger gets caught by Rosella before Bolger catches Redmond. And Flood, what have you just seen?
Fastest lap of the race, Steve Bolger, a 2:02.8. He is absolutely putting the hammer down. That gap now here between Redmond and Bolger is less than 1.5 seconds. So it's not quite academic, but it's coming down hand over fist. Luke Rosella, not to be forgotten, set his best lap of the race as well, a 2:03.1. So he's got the hammer down. But at the moment, Bolger looks like the one with the outright pace here. And it wouldn't surprise me. That gap now is second between himself and Redmond. That's going to be going the way of the Ferrari very, very shortly.
It certainly is.
And out front as well, Tara he's losing time to this battle as well.
Termo nearly picked off Nathan Higginson at turn 1 there. Wasn't quite there or there enough to make it work, but he might have a nibble down here at 3. This battle will not relent either. This has been going on hammer and tongs for the better part of the race. Termo packs it in to turn 3. And Rossi's just sitting there wondering, can you guys just wipe each other out already? I wouldn't mind 6th place right about now.
That would be pretty nice.
It would be pretty nice. Should be mentioned as well is for you guys turning their best laps of the race then. So Luke Rosella, despite being a little bit slower than the cars ahead of him, actually did turn his fastest lap of the race last time around. So too did Lewis Wedding at a 2:04.5, fastest lap of the race. Is in 5th place right now. And it's all... Ooh. Rosella's lost touch, so Rosella's had a bit of an issue somewhere here, guys. I'm not sure if he's had a bit of a mistake or something, but he caught up to the back there. Has he had an issue somewhere? Actually, it happened a little while ago. I was looking on the replay here to see if I could see it. No, we haven't quite got it on the replay. So he's had a moment somewhere.
I think he did.
Yeah, I think he's had a moment somewhere.
I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I think he was this far back already. He was about 5 seconds behind Bolger. It is just, I'm not seeing anything in his lap times that suggest...
He's lost a couple of tenths in the first 2 sectors, and in sector...
No, he set his best lap.
Okay, that's a bit weird then. Because
Redmond's
he's gone! He's gone!
Sausage curbs, and that's just given that away. It's going to drop him down behind Rosella as well.
He's got to watch the rejoin. Yeah, he's got to watch the rejoin here as well. He's going to come out ahead, so that's lucky for Redmond. Very, very lucky. So he drops one to Bolger straight away. What happened here? Did he just do what Rosella did at the beginning of the race? Get out over the sausage curbs a little bit too aggressively and have to catch it. He was under big pressure from Bolger as well. Got on the curb and sent him into a bit of a slide. That's the problem, is the curb has actually caused him to have a bit of a slide that sent him out there. and then had to recover it. Luckily, again, the tarmac to the rescue, so the car's not beached. But now puts him under big pressure from the Porsche of Rosella. So that's a big kick. Now, importantly as well, with all of that as well, with all of this as well, they were catching Greg Turra. So last time around, the lap times, Greg Turra actually got a track cut last time around as well, but I know he was in the high threes a little bit earlier. Bolger was a 2:02.9, Redmond with a 2:03.8, so he'd already had a bit of a tardy lap, and Rosella was a 2:03.3. Redmond originally had the gap down to about 5.5 seconds before the mistake in the final sector of the last lap and the mistake at turn 1 and 2.
I know.
But now the margin's down to 6.2.
I know we've been looking at Rosella and Redmond, but I think we're doing a disservice to Higgins and Turmo and Rawson by not looking at their battle, and the viewers as well by not looking at their battle, because it's just still going on and on.
We keep cutting back to it.
How was the slide from turn 3 at all three of them?
Look who's about to join the party. Steve Warwick's about to join the party.
It's all getting very congested very quickly here in the last 10 minutes.
Side by side.
They are through scene, and
that.
It's not meant to be a passing spot. Flood yelps or something probably comes out his backside there as Rosella goes with the fastest lap of the race. And yeah,
Ross all the way over the inside curve. There's a touch, and Ross is around the Porsche.
Yep, Rossi's out of that battle, and that drags Steve Warwick into it now. Look at Steve Warwick right around the outside of the Bentley. There's no room there. Going to be on the wrong side for this one, as race control issues a penalty for Brian Walsh. That'll be for corner cutting for sure. No one's in the lane. Warwick wraps around the outside and grabs Higginson. What a fantastic move that was.
Well done.
Well done. You got the Christmases all happening at once at the moment.
You got the luxury of being able to do that because of the way that the corners are shaped here. You got the inside run for 14 and just managed to eke Higginson out of that as well. So well done, Warwick. He's now got Turmo to focus his eyes on. It was 2 seconds quicker the last lap around on Turmo. But how about let's check in at the front. A 2:04.2 versus a 2:02.9 for Steve Bolger. So that was quite literally a second and 3/10 that Turra lost that last lap around.
Oh, Redmond had a big slide. Rosella's passed him.
Yes, there it is in the back of shot. So yeah, that'll be easy pickings with a bit of luck for Rosella. But the problem is the McLaren has
side by side.
McLaren's got a bit of poke in a straight line here. So it's seen corner again. Rosella right around the outside. Can they make this work? Yes.
Oh, well done.
Yes. What a pass that was.
On doing this all the time.
It's not
great. It's not what we want to see.
It's not a mooted passing spot though. That's the important thing. It's making a pass at a corner that's not renowned for making the passes. So we believe this is a net second place for Luke Rosella here overall, and it's net third for Redmond, but we still do not know the answer to the $64,000 question about how Greg Turra is going out in front. Basically, let's go on board here with the current race leader as he starts lap 29. Let's have a bit of a listen here, and let's see if there's a bit of lift and coast. You tell me.
It really isn't still. He's doing slower laps, no doubt, but there's not much in the way of lift and coast. I think it's just he's being a little bit easier maybe, but he's still pushing like he has a large amount of fuel in reserve.
2:04 flat versus a 2:03.6 last lap around. A little bit of traffic for Bolger there, preventing him from putting down some outright pace.
He's in shot now as well, Flood. This is the important thing. Every time we cut to Greg Turra, he's in. Steve Bolger is in shot. There he is. So he's not that far away now. Turra will know he's on the march. 6 minutes to go. This is excruciating for Turra as well. I'm looking at the cog on the left-hand side there thinking he's coming in for a stop this lap for a splash and dash, because there's at least 4 full laps remaining after this is going to get to the line. There'll be 5 minutes on the clock. There's probably going to be at least 3 to 4 more laps. So we're going to get to about lap 32, 33 for this one. So a little bit short of the marks that we had predicted at the start of the night based on the green flag running, but not too far off. And then the Redmond and Rosella battle seems to have just settled down for the moment.
Half a second in that middle sector alone, Bolger caught that. So 3/10 in the first sector, 5/10 in the second sector. This gap is coming down very, very quickly.
Bolger doesn't look like he's going to make it. Rosella doesn't look like he's going to make it up to Bolger either. He was looking promising, but he's just not had the pace on this stint.
Yeah, John McDonald's just come into the live chat saying he reckons that Greg Turra is good. on fuel. So the important bit is there's Greg Turret just heading around the corner, just ahead of Bolger. So Bolger's got a perfect view here to see what happens to Greg Turret. Is John McDonald right?
Oh no, he's in!
No,
He's in.
he's not. He's not. That's it.
John McDonald's immediately proven incorrect.
There you go. So Turret in. Unfortunately, going to be a splash and dash. You won't need to take tyres here. And yeah, just a straight splash and dash. There goes Rosella, there goes Redmond. So Greg Turret's going to be, he's with a bit of luck. He might just sneak it out in front of Lewis Wedding here for 4th. So it wouldn't be championship over for Greg Turret, but it'll be definitely a significant dent in the championship. And yeah, Greg Turret's gone. So there he is. So coming down the lane now, there's traffic as well in between him and Lewis
There's a
Wedding.
big old fight there.
Yeah, massive fight between PJ and Walsh. And those guys are the only 2 cars 1 lap down as well, but they're having a great old scrap there. Good to see Walshy's found somebody to race. I'm really pleased to see that.
John McDonald's reply, that's it lads, I'm cashing out the sports bet.
Well, there wasn't any betting on. We should condone by saying this, but we don't condone gambling, but if you do, please gamble responsibly. We don't have odds on who wins races and stuff here at ASR. It's just the way that some of this works out. So, Steve Bolger hasn't had a win all year in GT3s. He's been on the podium several times. He's had some really, really good results. If we go and actually take a look at what sort of results he's had over this year, we'll see if we can drag these up while things are going on at the moment.
Higginson! Oh, sorry guys, it was watching the battle for 9th, 10th and 11th, and Nathan Higginson almost ended up on his roof as he crashed over the exit curve of turn 2.
There he is. So he's lost out in that battle as well. We'll come back to looking at the results in just a little bit. So let's go and see what happened to Higginson here. So these guys had actually, you know what the funny part is? They'd actually been passed by Steve Bolger as well. So Bolger had made it look easy getting past the pair of them. Here comes Higginson into turn 1 and 2. And what does he do here? Goes way too wide. Wave! Yeah, very lucky for not to tip over there. And then Rossi continued on to battle with Taipan, and Higginson just carried on as if he was nothing happened. But I think he'll have a bit of a brown stain after that one.
Oh, wild stuff. We've got 2 minutes and 50 seconds left by my maths as Bolger comes across the line to start lap 31. We'll see, yes, 2 more laps after this one.
No, one.
So
So it'll be 3 more laps. So total it'll be 3 laps
34.
total. Sorry, yes, the 34. We'll get to lap 34. So a little bit lucky there. My math off by a lap, but yeah, 1 more lap to go after the timer expires. It'll be lap 34. So Rosella now past Redmond. Now, has Redmond got a second win to fight with Rosella here or not? I don't think he does, because I think Rosella's got much better tyre condition than Redmond. So your top 3 we predicted have sort of been settled. And Greg Turret's going to have to settle for 4th here by the looks of things. We're going to have to go and have a look at what the point standings are and just get a rough idea of what this is going to do to the championship as well. So we'll get that math done a little bit early if we can and see how it all pans out.
In response to the moment for Higo and his brown stain, McDonald's offering to send the marshals out with the kitty litter to try and clean it up at the exit of turn 2.
Yep.
Thanks, John.
I think that's a very fair assumption.
Why isn't McDonald out here with his Xbox controller? I want to have someone to fight with.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be gearing himself up for Enduro Cup in a couple of weeks, I think.
Oh,
as well.
yeah.
So that's it. Now, Steve, as I said, the important thing for Steve Warwick is he actually had rounded up Higginson, he'd rounded up Brendan Ross. He hasn't rounded up Termo yet. But he is right on the hammer of that, as much the same as Brendan Ross is right on the hammer here at Taipan. He's actually driven a pretty good race, despite the fact he's down 1 position from where he started, but it's a much cleaner race, and been driving very, very well in the Lamborghini. And then we go a bit further afield. You can see Noah Turret just closing in a little bit on Steve Warwick, who's then sort of, lockstep a little bit of the way here with Termo, but not quite at the rear wing of Termo just yet, but the gap's closing.
Warwick was actually just ahead of Termo last lap around. He made a mistake out of turn 14 and seeded that position. So they've been attached at the hip. Warwick is taking on the big boat role of Nathan Higginson, who has been fighting with Termo for most of the race. So they'll continue that on for another 3 laps? We're going to say.
Yes. I think so.
Bolger has come across to start lap 32. So it'll be 33 laps total. Yes. You were right in the end, Nether. messed it up
No,
ourselves?
yeah, we're on 30. Yeah, we're on lap. Started lap 32 now. So the white flag will go out next time around as the clock winds down with only a couple of seconds remaining. 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, and time has now expired on this race. So there will be one more lap after this one. I like it when I'm proven right. Thank you, Flood. And Steve Bolger's got a little bit of traffic he's going to have to contend with here as well. Now, who has he got ahead of him? He's got 13th placed man Ben Hall and 14th placed man Luke Emerton are the two cars ahead of him, and then there's clear track all the way up to Zach Brown. So he probably will catch he might catch these guys on this lap, but have a look at the gap. Just look at Rosella in the back of shot here. Rosella's actually been quicker last lap around. The gap's coming down.
It's still 5 seconds, so I don't think
still 5 seconds, but you're right.
It's controlled. It's controlled. I just caught a moment on my screen. Taipan making the move to try and come into the pits. Absolutely nailed by Brendan Ross, who was trying to grab the slipstream. So Taipan's found his way into the pits, and Rossi's continued on. I think he was going to try and redress, but with the pit stop, has elected to just press on. So one for the post-race stewards, I think. On that one. Yeah,
I think so too. And there's actually a couple of late stoppers as well. So Taipan stopping late. Nathan Higginson having to stop for a splash and dash as well. So they've lost a little bit of ground. That actually means that Nathan Higginson's lost a position to Zach Brown, who's gone into the top 10. So at the request of having to come in and top that off, he has unfortunately lost his spot in the top 10. White flag out.
Just quickly on Zach Brown, he actually gained 2 positions there, one from passing Higo and the other one from passing Taipan after his spin.
Good point. So there you go. Steve Bolger has the better part of 5 kilometres to run here as he comes down to turn 3. Now just having a look back through some of the results from the year. We haven't actually got the actual Excel viewer up to actually give me all the details I need then, so that'll just be prepped for me for next time to figure that one out. But looking at standings back as of round 5 at the Nürburgring, the best finishing spot for Steve Bolger all season had been a couple of second place finishes, had a couple of podiums. He's never been outside, up until round 5, he'd never been outside the top 6. So top 6 was his worst place to finish, and he hasn't got a win on the season all year. Well, he's about to get one now. Man who took 4 wins and 4 second places en route to the World Series Championship win last year is going to give his championship defence a real shot in the arm here today, fellas. He's earned this one. I think he's played we questioned the strategy early when he came in on the safety car and how this was going to work, but he has masterminded another beautiful drive.
Yeah, once again, we've gone and poo-pooed someone's strategy, and then they proceed to win the race. So, but he probably could have won the race by even more if he'd followed our advice. Let's put it
Yeah, he did it the hard way. That fight through the field in his second stint, he really looked to struggle in that middle part of the race. But once he got into those last set of tyres, he's been absolutely untouchable, setting 203 after 203 after 203. And he's gonna come out of the final corner to come across the line to take his first win for the season thus far in 2021 and extend his championship lead, winning the race. Steve Bolger.
Well done, Steve Bolger. Much deserved win. Luke Rosella into second place. So that's actually a good result for the Porsche teams, despite the fact that they were down a bit of speed. And then Tim Redmond. Welcome to the GT3 podium, Tim Redmond. This is his first podium in GT3, so the Kiwis will be supporting him at the moment and be very happy with that. And then Greg Turra, home for 4th, not out of it by a long way in this championship. Still 3 races across 2 rounds to go, so plenty of room to try and recover that one. Lewis Wedding, home for 5th. I think he'll actually be pretty pleased with that after being a bit worried about how the Porsche was going to handle tonight. So 2 Porsches inside the 10. Steve Warwick did re-get Turmo after that one as well. So that's important for Steve Warwick, and finishing where he started, going to be, again, one of his better results on the season. Very well-measured drive.
Noah Tara's grabbed Turmo as well. They're coming through the final complex of corners. Turmo must have had some sort of incident or something, because he's now dropped quite a lot of time in that last lap.
He has, so he's now gone down to 8th place overall. So Noah Tara with that early stop that didn't work. Actually, hang on a minute. No, Turmo's gone back ahead here.
Oh.
So I'm wondering if there might have been maybe a nudge or something going on there, and that's now been redressed on the main straight. So Tomo will be 7th. Noah Tara will be 8th. Brennan Ross will be home in 9th. So actually all 3 Porsches inside the top 10 for this one. And he gets to the line. And then Zach Brown will take the last spot inside the top 10 with actually Taipan and Higginson still dueling it out. Last couple of cars on the lead lap here, and Ben Hall's just out of back a shot. Taipan wide, and Higginson might try and wrap around the outside here. No, yes.
Is he going to dive? He's going to dive.
Yes.
What?
No, I
They
think
give all or nothing.
They give just enough room here. Taipan's going to cover off the entry. He does just enough.
he does.
Crashing over the curbs. It's going to be the Lamborghini who takes home 11th spot.
It is.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
and then Ben Hall is, I think he's had an issue in the last lap or so there, but so Taipan for 11th, Higginson for 12th, and I think Ben Hall's out of fuel actually, guys. I think he tried to make it a little bit too fast, so he's going to need a push to get home from here. And then you got Luke Emerton, Glenn Miles, Brian Walsh, and PJ. They were all a lap down, but for Steve Bolger, I think this is going to be a very, very satisfying. It's got to be a very satisfying win for him after that.
Yeah, certainly. He, as we made mention, he did it the hard way, and sometimes you do have to win the hard way. We made mention that it's sometimes difficult to be the one that everyone's chasing, and he was that today, and it looked a little hairy halfway through the race, especially when Rosella was kind of bullying him around, and he got caught up with Lewis Wedding and Steve Warwick and Turmo in that mid-pack battle. But once he popped himself out of that, once he made the strategy call to find some clear air, he was just absolutely untouchable, and that's going to be a sweet win.
It's definitely going to be a sweet win, don't you agree, Bagsy?
Yeah, he's really played the game well today, and yeah, despite us disagreeing with some of the things he did, it was quite well done. I was surprised that Rosella didn't have the pace he had in that middle stint in the last one. Not sure what it was. We'll be able to ask him on the podium for sure, but it's unfortunate that also Greg, there's once again the strategy has let him down and dropped him out of the podium positions and increased his deficit in the championship. So yeah, really the racecraft is there, but it's just the strategy that needs working on for both Taras really.
Yeah, it needs a little bit of tuning up, and we'll do some math in a few seconds, and we'll work this out so we can actually go from here and figure out moving forward what the equations are going to be over the next couple of rounds for these guys. That's actually the wrong image graphic there. Apologies, everybody. We'll get can't even get the correct one up. We might just have to roll with this one. I think maybe there's a little bit of something going on here that we haven't actually thought too much about with how all some of these things are meant to go. No, there we go. We've actually got the right one now. And, well, Flood, let's, between yourself and Bagsy, you guys can work this one out. Who do we start with? Who's got the most intriguing story to tell of the top 3 tonight?
Well, I'm going to take the reins, and I'm going to start with our race winner, Steve Bolger. Steve, congratulations on your first win in the GTE World Challenge this season.
Thanks, Floody. I'd like to thank Damon for not showing up and giving us a chance. Mate, it was pretty interesting race. It was good.
Yeah, well, let's start from the very, very top. You got a pole position, a cracking pole position with a great lap in qualifying. Not quite the best start though. You got a good start off the line, but you dropped quickly behind Greg Tara, and then there was a safety car. So were you looking to stretch to try and make the one-stop work? Is that why you were a bit slow in that early stage?
I was lifting and coasting to let Greg pass, and I just wanted to sit in his slipstream.
Yeah,
so mark him for the race was the original plan.
Yeah, and then plan changed very quickly with the safety car. Bagsy particularly was perplexed at the double pit stop you made in that safety car. Why did you do that?
I forgot to take tyres on the
see, that is exactly what we were saying as well. So once you took tyres, you got stuck in that sort of mid-pack battle with Lewis Wedding, Luke Rosella. At times it was Taipan and Turmo and Steve Warwick, Nathan Higginson. That stage of the race, it looked like things were going a bit pear. How did you work your way through that to pop out where you did at the end of the race?
I was getting a bit worried at that point. I saw the gap to Greg just stretching out quite a bit, and then especially coming out behind Lewis, he was a bit tough to pass, and there were different spots, and I wasn't driving very clean at that stage either. So yeah, I was getting a little bit stressed at that point. But when Greg pitted with way too far to go to make it home, that was I knew Greg was covered, and it was all about covering Luke from there.
So is that something that you guys registered that there was a bit too far for your competitor to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that must be quite settling there. And then from once you've made that pit stop, it was clean sailing to the end of the race, effectively.
Yeah, in clear air, I had a good bit of pace in the last stint. That's why I pitted at the start too as well. I knew the car had pace around that track, so I didn't want to sit there and lift and coast for an hour. So I thought I'd, take the crack where we could go flat out for the whole race.
And you were able to do that. You almost set the fastest lap of the race, pipped at the post by Luke Rosella. But either way, a race win for you. You stretch your lead at the top of the championship. Two rounds left. The endurance at Monza, which was a scene of one of your greatest victories in ASR's most famous moments, and then the series finale at Bahrain. Are you confident that you're going to wrap up the title? Do you reckon?
Look, I think it's going to get closer before the last round, so Bahrain's going to be interesting. I think the other boys might have the edge at Monza.
Okay, we'll certainly see you next time out. Congratulations on your win, Steve, and well done, and good luck for the rest of the championship.
Thanks, Floody.
Bagsy, I will let you take the floor.
Yeah, and actually, I've already forgotten who finished second. It was I've been
Luke
slightly
Rosella.
distracted. Luke Rosella. Is he in the?
He is. He's branded Thomas Mazira, but he is here.
All right, there's no wonder I was confused. Everyone's changing the name every other day, and anyway, Luke, second place. It was a good run for you, especially in that middle stint. We saw you come out and basically straight into a battle where you were chasing down Bolger and Wedding. What was it that in that last stint that made it so you're unable to maintain that pace and get that gap down to Steve?
Yeah, we were in a position last stint, Bagsy, that we had much better tyres than the first three guys on the podium. So I was like, we got to press on here. We got to push as hard as we can. And yeah, I wasn't expecting to catch Bolger. I actually expected him to actually increase the gap and not even catch Tara either. I was really battling Tim because I knew, in qualifying, I was a little bit faster than him, and he had all the tyres. So yeah, the battle was with Tim in that last stint. He made a mistake in the first complex. It made it pretty easy for us, and we got past him. And yeah, I think Tara had to make a late pit stop, and we finished second. So I think that's a good effort considering that car is absolutely dreadful around that track.
Yeah. So were you aware that Greg, were you aware that Greg wasn't going to make it on fuel, or were you thinking you were still going to have to catch and pass him?
I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea he would have to pit. So I was really expecting to finish on the third or fourth. Just battling Tim. So yeah, the pace was there. But yeah, obviously Bolger had the better strategy calls, I guess, and overall the little bit faster car. So, but we'll definitely take second place. I'm pretty happy with that, and I should be making it Monza. That's going to be absolutely terrible for the Porsche, but we'll give it a crack.
Yeah, well, hopefully some strategy plays, and we know Monza's always a bit of a crazy race for us, so I definitely wouldn't count out anything just yet for you. But good job on second place.
Thanks, Bagsy.
And I'll hand it back to Floody for our podium debutant.
Yes, Tim Redmond taking home third place in the McLaren. Tim, congratulations, first of all.
Yeah, thanks, Floody. Nice to be on the podium. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's great to hear your voice again on the podium. I think the last time we heard you on the podium, it would have been for Super Series, so not even that long ago. What am I saying? Great work from you. Made the decision to not pit under the safety car. How did that play out through the rest of the race? You were about, just an arm's length away from catching the Tara. What were your thoughts when he came into pit early and you inherited the lead of the race?
I definitely remember him coming in a bit early, thinking it's probably a tad early for the car. I think it was exactly on the 35-minute mark, actually, so about halfway through the race. I thought to myself, okay, that seems a bit early, and then completely forgot about it for the rest of the race, and then took me by surprise when he needed to pit again, which on reflection, obviously made sense. So yeah, quite lucky to have been given a free one from Greg in that particular case. So thank you, Greg.
Yep. So what about the last part of the race then? How were you doing on tires and fuel as the likes of Bolger and the likes of Rosella started to rear their pace? Did you feel that pressure from the moment they came out the pits?
Yeah, great question. I actually didn't really feel that much pressure from them until they were sort of driving around me. I was starting to get a bit tired, to be honest, and starting to trying to calculate, where am I in terms of fuel. Tires had no problem whatsoever. That was gonna get to the finish line nice and easy. But yeah, fuel became a little bit of an issue, and actually had to do a little bit of fuel saving the last couple of laps to actually make it home. I thought I had an extra lap for free in it, so I was pushing a little, and that wasn't to be the case because I think Steve crossed the line with a few seconds to spare, so we actually had an extra lap to do. So lucky in some ways because when I did pit, it was about 30 minutes to go, and it looked like I was there or thereabouts for fuel. So didn't have to do too much, but the last 2 laps was definitely a little bit more aggressive than the earlier ones.
If you had your time again, would you have made that pit stop under the safety car, or were you happy with the way that the strategy worked out for you? And even though you had those mistakes in you at the end of the race, you happy with your overall race performance?
Oh, absolutely. I to be fair, I was prepared to do a 2-stop through that, and when the safety car came out, I started adding numbers to the fuel count, and then before I knew it, I was so close to the 120. I thought, okay, it's just fill it, and then that'll get me home, and I can not have to worry about a further pit stop after that. Which like I say, it worked. So fairly happy all in all.
Yeah, third place for you. Jumps you up a few positions in the championship. Looking to Monza and Bahrain, last 2 rounds of the season. Are you have particular affinities for either of those tracks?
To be honest, I think I did Bahrain last year, so it's going to be a bit
Correct.
interesting to jump in and give it another go. And I don't think I've done Monza competitively in this series yet, so I'm keen to give that one a go. That's for sure. It's definitely an interesting circuit and one I'd like to try my hand at.
Yeah, well, we hope all the best for you, Tim. Congratulations on your third place tonight.
Thank you.
And that's podium getters nether for what was an enthralling race around La Castellet tonight, Steve.
That's the only first time we've actually used that name all night, isn't it?
Le
Le
Castellet,
Castellet, the one that they all keep referring to it as, because that's where it is, Le Castellet in France. But you're right, it's added a little bit of an interesting dynamic and a bit of an interesting dimension to the championship with just 2 rounds and 3 races remaining. We have a bit of a look at provisional points, of course, before any of the stewards need to look at anything tonight, which there might be 1 or 2 incidents, but I mean, most of them, probably the drivers, I would imagine, are sorting themselves out with it all now. So top 4 in the standings do not change. The gaps do, though. So Steve Bolger increases the margin. It was 5 points at the start of the night. It is now 18. So just has edged away a little bit there. He's got a little bit of margin in his pocket now for
And that's
that there, but still not insurmountable, Bagsy.
it's not insignificant though, because it was 3 races left.
Yeah, 3 races left,
Is
and
that-
a maximum of 100 points on the table. So there's 50 points for the next race win at Monza, and then there's 25 points for each of the 2 sprint races at Bahrain left. So for any one driver, maximum 100 points available.
Yeah, and sorry, what was second place points for Monza?
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think what Bagsy is getting at here is there enough gap for Bolger to just track Tara home for the
I
rest of
don't
the
think
series?
there is. I
No,
think that wouldn't quite work
No, so
based
when
on Monza being extra points.
Yeah, so when we look at the points graphic for Monza, so it pays down in 5-point increments for the top 3. So even if Greg Tara and same for the sprint race, basically if Bolger was to tail Tara home in the next 3 races, he'll win it. It's
Oh,
clear.
so there you go.
It will win it. So just to give you an idea, the bigger margins are at the top. So A first place result for Monza is 50 points, second 45, and third would be 40. And then it goes down to 4-point increments for a little bit, then 3-point increments. For the sprint race, you get 25 points for the sprint race win, 22 for second, 20 for third, and it pays in 2-point increments down for a little bit after that. So with that in mind, even if you're looking at the maximum scale here of 5 points, 3 points, and 3 points, that's only 11, and he's got a margin of 18. So if he just tails Greg Tara home for the next 3 races, he will be champion. So
and realistically can go for third place in those sprints as well.
Correct. Yeah.
And this is where the Taras need to sort something out and get Noah up there as well to make sure that for those longer races, for the strategy, that they've got 2 bullets in the gun effectively, and they can manage themselves and manage that gap to Bolger if they want to walk away with Greg having the overall championship.
That's right. So we look at the standings there. So Greg and Steve, it's pretty much for the title. It's a race in 2 now. Mathematically, Termo's still in the equation. He's third on 241 provisional points, but he's 68 points in arrears of Steve Bolger. So you pretty much think that he's now in a fight with Noah Tara for what would be third place overall. Those two are only separated by 23 points now. With Lewis Wedding moving ahead of Damon Woods tonight. He's 99 points in arrears of the leader, so pretty much is out of contention, but still able to possibly leapfrog up into 4th place. He's only 8 points behind Noah Tara, so he might be able to still leapfrog ahead into 4th place by the time the season's over. He might take a little bit of catching to catch Termo, though. Might need a few results to go his way for that. Rosella stayed in 7th, Steve Warwick stayed in 8th, but had a good increased his margin over Nathan Higginson though by finishing ahead, which was great. And then Tim Redmond actually has leapt into the top 10 with that podium finish tonight, so he chalks up the 100 points or over the 100-point milestone for the year, having only contested half the races anyway, and he's the last man inside the 10. And then on our little graphic, we normally have 11th and 12th on there, which is currently Taipan and Ujit Mishra, who missed tonight. So now we do actually want to put a call out to everybody for Monza in about a month's time. So if we have a look at our calendar, the way that it goes, there is only 2 rounds left. The Monza round takes place on the 30th of October, so that is approximately, we're just doing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks from now. So there's plenty of time, and then there's about another 5 weeks. About another 4 weeks. From Monza to Bahrain. Which reminder, Bahrain is a night race, ladies and gentlemen, twilight night race. So it'll be very, very beautiful under lights to see that go around. We want to put a call out for Monza though, because Monza always presents some really, really interesting races. So we want to see as many people that are registered for the series turn up. I know there's been a few of them that have got other commitments and things at the moment. I think Rhodey's off playing Forza with John McDonald. That's why they're not here tonight. So that's the end of the equation there. But I know there's a few ERT cars in there that are not being used at the minute for the ERT guys to make sure that they all turn up. And I know Will Devonish and Pete Savage are probably eyeing off a return potentially for Monza, because it'll be after the ASR Enduro Cup is over for supercars, and they probably won't have anything else better to do. So let's pray they come along, and let's get a really big field going for Monza in about 6 weeks. I can't wait. Flood can't wait. Bagsy can't wait. He's the only one of the 3 of us that's actually been there. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that in mind, we'll leave it for the night. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you next time. Please drive safely, and bye for now.